sure.
I do have changed, I just sent him a text.
Okay. Let me just,
Do you have Dan's?
I think I'm gonna pick Dan's.
Okay.
We went.
Was she saying her name?
You may have Dan's, I may have a cell phone number, Dan? Yeah.
I have his home number. and also his cell phone number.
Once you get past the viewing,
He could be.
Yeah, we're on the camera now, but I think now. He didn't miss me.
Darius. All right, everybody.
If I can have your attention, obviously we're, as it's not uncommon, we're a little bit under the gun tonight time-wise, but we would like to dedicate the first 10 or 15 minutes to, so if you, I think it's ready to tell you, just anything that you were approved last year, it's just whatever has changed and wanted to be asking for a change.
Okay, all right.
You can introduce yourself, please.
This is Angel Marshall. She's the Executive Director of Pathways Pregnancy Care Center. My name is Joselle Presby. I'm the Chair of the Board of Directors at the center. Our mission statement has not changed. Our employment has changed. We now employ 2 staff members, our Executive Director and a receptionist. That's changed from 3 as last year. Let's see. Our material assistance program is still the same. We still are able to give clients more material assistance if they participate in our Learn to Earn program. Let's see, our support services are the same, but new in 2019, we added Christian counseling to our services. And coming in 2020, we're going to be able to offer full ultrasound services. Again, we're very excited about that. Let's see, our education services continue to be I'm on page 3, the majority of our services. And new this year, we added parenting children with special needs. And coming in 2020, we will be adding toilet training to our parenting education classes so that we can hopefully lessen the amount of large-sized diapers that we have to give away. Also new in 2019, we added a service for married couples, nutrition and natural fertility guidance, and we can provide referrals to learn natural family planning for married couples. If you move to page 4, this is a summary of 2019. We served 68 different clients this year. What does that mean? It means we served 68 families, 30 of whom were from Littleton. That means 38 spouses and partners were helped. Those 68 clients had 162 children. So that's a total of 268 people total helped in 2019. This year we gave out a total of 2,150 material items, where one item, for example, is a package of diapers or a package of wipes or one outfit or an accessory. You can see on page 5 a picture of the baby boutique, and that's what the money from Littleton goes toward, is for the material assistance that comes out of the baby boutique. Again, all of our services are free. All the items we give away are free to our clients. I do have client testimonies, but I'll get to those after. I'd like to draw your attention to the Excel spreadsheet. This itemizes how we spent the dollars, the $2,500 that Littleton voters awarded to us. We're very grateful for that. You can see so far we've spent $2,099.58 and have $400.42 left to get us through March. The expenditures are broken down on the pie sheet, on the pie chart. And you can see that most of the money is spent on diapers, training pants, and wipes. Secondarily, clothing, we try to spend the money on as much used clothing as possible. And then it breaks down from there, shoes and formula and items that new moms need, sippy cups, storage bags for diapers. We have to give the diapers out in a clean storage bag because we break down cases. We buy the diapers in bulk and we break them down, the cases down, and we have to, it's more cost efficient to buy in bulk that way. And
Just out.
yes,
So you are, last year you were approved for how much?
$2,500.
And you are requesting how much this year?
3,200.
And why?
Just because we think that we're gonna run out. And we have more clients. How many clients did we have last year?
We had 52 clients last year.
And this year we have 68. So our more and more people are finding out about us, and more people are coming for our services. And the material assistance program is a big part of that.
Question,
Mhm.
are you soliciting or requesting support from other towns?
Yes.
here?
Yes, we, the other towns from which most of our clients come from Littleton. And then the next towns with the most clients are Lancaster, Bethlehem, Lisbon, and we're asking those towns.
Are you increasing your request amount from them as well?
So because fewer people come from those towns, we're only, like, how much are we requesting from Bethlehem?
This will be the first time that we petition any of the other towns. Last year we were asked by all of you guys to petition them.
Yes.
And so we have, each one is going to be $250 because there's minimal clients from those areas, between 5 and 3. So for those towns, we're going to be requesting money for our Top Time program. So it's not going to be for material assistance. We're trying to keep
We're gonna
everything
try to get some
separate.
help for some of our other services.
And are you just located in Littleton?
Yes, right now we are only in Littleton. We used
So
to have an
they
office
travel
in
here.
Berlin, but no longer. Yes, they come from all over.
West Stewartstown is our furthest.
Yes. Another question, on your application that you submitted to the town, you had a cash flow report, and maybe you can just tell me, there's one outflow item, that category that's meals/entertainment for $191.
Oh.
That's out.
So,
That's the staff and volunteers.
yeah, we have a lot of volunteers, and so we have meetings with them on a regular basis, and we like to say thank you to them. Yeah.
When you talk about the area you service, I mean, you don't turn anybody away.
Never, nobody.
So you mentioned the various towns, somebody came from Twin Mountain, somebody came from Sugar Hill, Franconia,
Yeah.
I mean, they're
West
all,
Stewart.
Yeah, anywhere.
okay, wherever, so.
Right.
But,
Colebrook.
no, just because you mentioned certain towns, you didn't mention certain others, that's why I asked.
Right, because most towns have, maybe there'll be one client from that town.
Like Dalton has
Yeah.
one
But
currently.
the towns where there are multiple clients coming from that town, we can justify asking them for a little bit of assistance.
And you would continue to reevaluate it every year based on the census.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And convey that to the towns, obviously.
Yes, yes, and we would like to convey to you how wonderful it is not to worry about having enough diapers. Because in the past, I remember the executive director before Angel saying, Giselle, I don't have any diapers. And for a pregnancy center, that's a process. So thank you.
Do you solicit any donations from the hospital?
We do not.
No,
I think that would be a good idea.
Okay.
what,
Diapers.
no, but like what
Supplies.
area of the hospital, like do they have
Jared,
a?
I think you reached out, probably Jared, would be the contact.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe that.
Because they can get good prices on diapers.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah, we've certainly
That's right.
thought about that before.
Definitely.
Yes, we just haven't found a way to do it.
Just do it.
Okay.
Out there.
Okay.
Yeah, if you send an email to us, we can try to get you in contact with the person who usually handles some of their outreach.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And how about the local churches, social organizations, they help?
They're our primary source of support, and we have regular fundraisers and are constantly in touch with our churches for their support, and constantly in touch with our donors with newsletters. And
So we used to have a fundraiser directly for material assistance that went to the area churches. And it was around Christmas time that we did it, and with all of the other Christmas programs that are going on, it kind of died. So I've actually created a new one, and we're going to start in February in hopes to get extra diapers, because, you know, with this, we're definitely going to run out before, and just try to get that supply built up in the meantime through that avenue.
Have you thought about going to Walmart and asking for a donation?
Walmart will donate $25 to $50 Walmart cards once every 6 months or annually.
Have you thought about using the Opera House for having a silent auction, or?
we are going to use the Opera House for a free concert in February.
Have you booked it already?
Yes, it is booked
Because
and ready.
I was thinking Pathways was booked, but I just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
But if you ever want to consider doing something like a silent auction and going around and asking for items for your silent auction, I know people who have them here. I can mention like Studio 2. Never mind Studio 2, it's a band. I'm working with Studio 2 on coming here in March.
Yeah.
But, what is the name of this? Help me, somebody, behind your
Yeah, down on the.
Studio School, yes. They do a big one here, and it's well attended, and you could really raise some good funds for your organization by doing something like that. So anytime you're interested in talking about that, I'm Sue P. Lott, I'm the manager of the Opera House, so give us a call and we'll try to help you with organizing something.
Wonderful, Sue. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
If we have a few minutes, I would like to read through our client testimony. So each of these that I've chosen have taken classes to earn points, so the town money was used on all of these here. So the first one, I'm 23 years old. When I was 22, I became pregnant with my first child, and my grandparents suggested I go to Pathways for classes and support. I remember being very reluctant about it at first because I have high anxiety and I'm pretty shy, but in March I decided I was going to give it a shot. From the very first visit, I knew Pathways was a place I not only needed to but wanted to be. I started going every week, and now I have my 2-month-old daughter and have so much confidence in everything I do. Thanks to the wonderful ladies at Pathways. I have learned so much, and it's not only classes, there is a wonderful support system through the center. I am in need of nothing because I have had the opportunity to earn everything I needed, from a pack and play to clothing. And I know if I ever have a question or need someone to talk to or help in any way, the ladies at Pathways are there for me. I could never thank them enough. I would highly recommend the center to anyone going through pregnancy or trying to get a hang of parenthood. 5 gold stars in my book.
Can you select the best of the rest and just as
Certainly, I'll read the bottom one.
perfect?
I was in a bad situation, a domestic situation, and I had come to Pathways and immediately helped. Pathways has saved me, literally. They welcomed myself and my son and instantly felt at home and comfortable. Easy to talk to. Everyone I have met that works there has been so nice. Yesterday I had nowhere to go, and even though all of these women have families and their own homes, home lives, Tiffany and Angel were so sweet and know how it is to be in a bad predicament. They work hard to find and call places for us to go. The pastor had paid for a hotel room for the night. This morning, or this AM, I was picked up and brought to the Town Hall Family Resource Center in Cap. Now I have somewhere to stay for a little until I can get an apartment or into a shelter. They helped with so much: diapers, wipes, clothing, food, everything for my son. Thank God for this place. It's a blessing, and the women here too. Need more places like this. Thank God they exist.
Very nice. Good testimonies. Are there any other questions? Anybody?
In the first testimonial, I'm curious what the client meant by saying I had the opportunity to earn everything I needed.
That's our Learn to Earn program. So in our Learn to Earn program, so in our monthly material assistance program, clients can come in once a month and receive diapers, wipes, clothing, things they need, a certain amount. If they want to participate in the Learn to Earn program, they can take our education classes and earn points to earn more additional items from the baby boutique.
Or big
So-
items like pack and play,
Yep.
car seats,
Yep.
strollers,
Just by taking classes with us, they can help themselves to get what they need. And so instead of just handouts, we're giving them a hand up.
Good.
So this is to make them, the classes are all geared to make them better parents.
Absolutely, absolutely. Better parents, better citizens, and it's a win-win.
Well, thank you, ladies.
Yeah.
Good work. And
Thank
we
you.
appreciate you coming here. And do you have all the paperwork into the town?
Other than the petition.
Okay.
I have one more question. What is your overall annual budget?
I believe it's 68,000 off the top of my head.
So you need a lot of help from a lot of different,
That is correct.
But this is a start.
This is start.
This is a huge, because the money is just for these items. And so it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that. And that's a big important part, so.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Karen, Andrew, where would you like us to start?
We've got warrant articles to start out with. This is an updated report. I'm trying not to give you as much paper this week as what I have in the past.
my three-ring binder is exploding.
I start throwing things away after a while. Old stuff, especially since these change almost every week. I'm hoping that we can ask any of the questions related to the smaller budgets that you might have before we get too deep into the warrant articles and the larger budgets. We have some people here from the office and from the Opera House and the library, and I hate to have them hang around for 2 hours till we get to them. So I'm not quite sure exactly if there's questions I have answered, some today.
Why don't you read those questions that pertain to the areas that you just talked about? Because that'll give Shane and Dan and John. I have a hard time sending a lot of things out because I don't want it to be construed as a meeting. And you can, if I send it out to everybody and someone asks for a vote or makes a suggestion, or then it's construed as a meeting, and I'm like really sensitive. So sometimes I share, and sometimes. So Karen is actually going to share.
I shared this with everybody.
Okay, good.
That I had emails on. And asked them to try to read it if they could before the meeting. I know it was tight. Having the questions today, trying to get the answers put together was a little rough, but we got through it. My understanding was Jim McMahon's questions and suggestions.
Right, so which category first?
So I started with exec, and it looked like he had questions why this position was added and what role this position has in the office. And thought about or commented about cutting 34,000 from the budget for this. And I noted it was recognized in 2018, the level of need for this position over the past 3 years, which it grew out of the 3 years, and that's what I had meant by saying that. I, Karen, have been here almost 20 years, and there has been no town manager so involved in community projects, growth, and development of the town of Littleton. We have never had as many projects going on. Sewer projects are the biggest thing, going on all at once. We may have had one, like Main Street, Phase 1, or we may have had the covered bridge, but as far as having a numerous amount of projects, there has not been a case. And this was noted by our auditors recently. They said, we're not the biggest town that they are, but we have the most activity, grant-wise, project-wise, out of any of the towns, even larger towns than us, of doing activity, having things going on, growing, changing, looking at different ways of doing things. We are very active. So to continue on this, the tracking of communication, handling of phone calls, scheduling of meetings, communication and availability for public time, make it harder to fit in and monitor. In the past years, there was an assistant town manager, there was a planner, there was an administrative services director, and administrative assistant. With staff changes, the positions moved around since the assistant town manager. Some workloads were absorbed by individuals who are here and some that have left. This position is needed to assist the town manager in research, preparing and controlling communication, planning work schedules, tracking information needed for projects, meetings, and legal needs. The current town manager has an increased level of activity covering most project management, filling a role as planner, public relations director, communications director, and economic development. The legal challenges, the opioid crisis, and changes in state and federal rules and regulations are extensive, requiring assistance in meeting the full needs of the towns, the taxpayers, and the business community. This position is needed to help the complicated and the highly active town manager keep moving forward and stay on top of challenges that come from a very active town.
Okay, so having said all that and identifying needs and things, do you have a job description?
There is. Yes,
Created.
and I didn't bring it with me, I apologize, but we do have one.
So you do have, no, it's okay, it's fine. But you do have I'm looking at Carrie and Chad and wondering if, if you've looked at the job description and are looking forward to doing this or recommending to do this. I'm not sure if you've taken a vote on this yet. Just wanted to have some input from the select board on that.
This was included in last year's budget.
So the board had made a decision to move forward with that in the previous year's budget.
So it was approved in 2019. And so essentially it's...
It was actually approved in 2018 as a little less hours. It was planned on hiring later in the year, and the person was actually hired in December 2018, and it became part of last year's budget for the full year at 32 hours.
So this is not a new position?
No, it's not new.
But it was originally approved, it wasn't filled for quite a while.
Correct.
Yeah. We went through
So
several
it felt like
different
a
processes.
position.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that, I would love to have like a professional third party, staff review of what we have, but, just from, anecdotal, the other town managers, or city managers coming here, they're always, or state agencies, they're usually surprised at how lightly staffed we are for, the type of community that we are. So I think that, yeah.
Must be good when they're from the state of Michigan.
Well, I'm saying state board contractors, engineers.
Washington Business Congress, they're surprised at what we staff they are.
I'll move forward. There was a suggestion to reduce the mapping from 15,000 to 10,000. I noted this is a continuing project. We've been adding layers of information and continue to expand on the information of our mapping programs. The mapping is used by assessing for storm, sewer, drain, water services, hazard mitigation. The maps are used in project planning, engineering, law enforcement, demographics of the town.
Okay, so on that one, I see that your year-to-date is only, for the budget that I have, was the end of September, so I think that was the one that I have.
You do, because I just recently updated mine. Let's see where we're
That's
at.
okay, so year-to-date on that, you had 15,000, you had 9,500 year-to-date up to the end of September, so I kind of look at the year-to-dates to see if they're in proportion with 3/4 of the year, and if they're under like half of what we budget, and we're 3/4 of way into the year, then I always ask questions, so that's the question I'm asking. Are we,
Well, right now we're at 15,000.
you're at 15,000,
Yeah, and one thing you didn't mention, I mean, a major use also is planning, zoning, and also tax collections. So, for the same campaign.
Reduce grant match from 17 to 8,000, 17,000 to 8. I meant to bring a list of grants that are currently under project, but I can always send you a copy of that. Grant consulting and matches are needed to continue pursuing the possibility of funding for infrastructure improvement, building improvements, and equipment purchases. It takes time to research the grants, put together the grant applications, and submit the applications and oversee the grant. Many grants have a 50-50 grant match, with budgets so tight that the matches have to come from the department budget or management budget. So most of the monies that are there are for the consulting service. And the recent grant worksheet that I got from the administrator, there are at least $1.5 million in grant funds that were handled. And those are just in 2 projects. And we have a lot of other little projects that they've handled as well. And for spending the amount of money that we are on trying to research and find money, which I think that the town of Littleton's been very successful at. We don't get everything we ask for, but we are doubling or more the money we're spending.
Well, more than double. I mean, we're into like $7.6 million worth of successful grant applications, I think, since like 2015. So this little bit of money goes far. And, these kind of things in the budget are really along the same venue as the town not increasing its staff and trying to outsource wherever it makes sense. And the contract that we have in place, for example, has a eat what you kill component to it, meaning, if the grant writer is successful, well, their organization also can use some of the funds out of the grant if there's administrative funds allowed to cover the cost of the application. So, if they're successful, they're incentivized to. A lot of oversight. You probably have to hire at least 2 employees to be able to do what we do through a third-party contractor.
Assessing. Reduce assessing service from 58,000 to 30,000. This is a contracted service, and the building permits are reviewed each year, and the assessor must go out and assess the work done. Assign its value, update the assessments of the property for correct taxation. It actually should be valuation. So we can keep up to date with the values of the properties that are being worked on. We used to have someone doing assessing at some point prior. I'm thinking back, Harold Cullen, and further back than that.
You know,
that there
yeah.
was someone.
And ideally, with the amount of activity that we have, commercial, industrial, and even just, changes that are here in residential, we really could justify having a full-time assessor here. I think it's, right now, I was just talking with the Conway town manager, it's unrealistic, we could probably actually recruit one. I've spoken to some of the surrounding communities about, do we want to create some kind of a shared staff person to do that, and, keep costs low, but then also have somebody who's here and really understands the market as it moves. But then looking at what Conway's doing right now, they just actually increased, they've had it out for a while, and have been increasing the amount, they're up to $90,000 a year for this position, and they still can't get qualified applicants, because it's just really technical, and the licensure needed is not common. But this is one of those areas, with the utilities too, Karen will be a little bit about that, but we're pushing to try to figure out ways to grow the tax base itself. And there's economic development as part of that, but then also making sure that people are assessed in a equitable way. And without these funds, that doesn't happen. We end up with a stagnating, declining assessment, where the state usually would come and do what they did last year, force us to do a revaluation. So,
Reduced utility assessment from 34,000 to 24,000. I noted in order to review special assessments and keep them up to date in value, we contract with a specialized assessor to have them assess businesses and utilities, allowing the town, and I wrote tax, but it meant to value these properties appropriately. So as an effort to continue that, we need to have a specialized person to do this. And those individuals, those professionals do not come.
Yeah, we have multiple assessing contracts, really right now just two firms, ART and George Sansucci. And but we have multiple contracts with Sansucci's office for specific areas. It's just the cost of doing business and making sure that taxpayers have an equitable tax base.
And that's some utilities, so.
There was a comment to remove full evaluation from 62,000 to 0. Again, this is a contracted service. DRA requires a full revaluation every 5 years, and in order to keep the values of the properties within the assessed market value and allow the town to value properties along with tax properties appropriately, this needs to happen.
But I thought that was still open for...
So so what Steve's referring to is, like, last year, the DRA required us to do a revaluation, so that technically restarts, does technically restart the 5-year requirement. But there are other indicators of whether or not you need to do one, and one is the sales ratio. And so our sales ratio, even though we just did our assessment based on the market right now, our sales ratio is already down to, I think, 91%.
And that percent of value on the state usually, once a year, right?
Yeah. And so they expect that next year, based on what they're seeing, we could be down in the low 80s. So their recommendation, and this is a contract that already do it, their recommendation is that we maintain the reval for next year. The reval last year was really out of cycle. So I don't know if Karen, if you address it, but this one is part of a 5-year deal where we did a quarter of the properties each year, and then we do a statistical revaluation. And the price of it,
in the past, we had spent $130,000 on our full statistical revaluation, and this is a budget of $62,000. So there's been an effort to try to maintain that number, but there's also, we need to have a good assessment and valuations to tax everybody fairly.
But to quote Jimmy in his absence, if you would, but hopefully accurately, I mean, to his point, or one of the points he was making was that, every time we do one of these, there's a certain amount of consternation that's created. The rough rule of thumb, a third of people are happy, a third of people are ambivalent, and a third of people are pissed off, if you would. And, it's not the kind of cycle you want to put yourself through more often than what you have to. I guess the point Jimmy was making, I would concur with that.
Right.
I mean, we're just kind of settling down now at the end of this year for everything that went on in 2018. Now we're going to initiate it all over again in 2020.
Yeah, and from what the DRA was saying, it's just the market right now is moving so quickly that a lot of communities are finding themselves in the same spot. And right now, we're in a 5-year contract where even if we wanted to get out of it, it would be difficult to do.
Yeah, well, not necessarily get out of it, but maybe have just a conversation based on what we did last year and just kind of...
Yes, so I've had that conversation,
Yeah.
and I'll just say it's a contractual discussion, but
Yeah, because obviously, you know, they would understand, they're in the business, they know how these things happen, and
Yeah.
sometimes just to maintain the relationship and knowing that you're gonna be getting the money at some point in time in some fashion, that you may just look out and restructure it over, you know.
Right, that's one of the things we did look at, and and I could have some of the PR come and explain it, but the way that the sales are happening, also with we're doing a pretty specific focuses here on commercial properties, specifically ones that have never appealed their taxes, certain large force, and so those are going to be done and taken into account during the same evaluation, so you might see other properties that benefit from it.
It would be interesting to know, we know the output through our budget, the expense that we have, but what we gain from it, as you're saying, appropriately evaluating and then taxing what we gain back, because in that 5-year cycle, you would think that everything would get caught up some way anyhow, but maybe not. Maybe you are gaining more than we are losing. I don't know, that offset.
Yeah, I mean, so like to your point, for every $1 million of value that's found, so that generates, if on our current tax rate, $23,100. And so if you figure $100,000 of revenue is how many cents off the tax rate?
I'm estimating again,
Like
13 cents.
13 cents. So, for every, that'd be for every, $5 million of value, right? You're getting, so
I'm not saying numbers.
No.
So, like,
Because we're working at a total town valuation.
Yeah.
I guess I'm still fuzzy on that, but somewhere around $785 million, is that?
if you take the imputed value of the dam.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, well,
based
off of one of those sheets, right?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
but if you did it the old-fashioned way,
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
what-
780,
Yeah,
790, somewhere there. And, so for every $40 million of valuation is $1 off the tax rate.
well, 8
So
times
do you
12 is still
find 40
96.
million in a year, or how much do you find in a year? I know 40
Yeah,
million
that
would be
depends,
a tremendous amount, but it would, like if we're putting this much money out to have assessors, special assessors coming in, what are we gaining on the other side? I mean, it sounds like we're trying to be fair and do all of that, but I would just wonder, in that normal cycle of 5 years, would we catch up anyways? Would we catch these things
That's
anyways?
also with the market.
Yeah, a lot of it's market movement, so based on sales. So for example, an acre on Meadow Street, might be worth, $1.3 million, and, our system is not catching up on it. It's, I think, we've had as low as like 200,000 or 300,000. So it's way
Yeah,
up.
but
So
there again,
bring it in.
an empty, unbuilt acre is valued differently than that acre with a building on it. There's a different
Oh, yeah.
formula for that, so if that $200,000 valuation empty acre sells for $1 million, that doesn't mean that our $200,000 was wrong. Because that empty acre would not have been valued at $1 million under any
Yeah, well, it
circumstance.
depends. If you're using so the DRA has specific methods for, doing valuations, and, we're using some very safe numbers right now on our commercial properties on the Meadow, and, what we'll be doing this year is, actually taking a much more, investigative look. Like, when you're in business, you're very good at actually hiding the value of a property. I've used FedEx as an example. FedEx sold to Fedco for $7.4 million. We have it assessed at like $700,000, and then we try to look at the sale and to use that to get a value. They have it layered in such a way that you can't use the information. It makes it unusable based on the they call a handshake transaction, or I forget the terminology, but, so you have to actually use a specialized assessor, like Sansucci, to actually split out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, when we talk about land in New Hampshire, and I'm not saying I'm an expert on this, just as my experience with land, I mean, that a value of a piece of undeveloped land or whatever is looked at in the assessing business differently. You know, it's the same piece of land once you have a building on it, but it all changes
yes,
once the
yeah.
building's on there. So,
Yeah.
so that $200,000 empty acre of land that we value at 200, that doesn't, I don't think we're gonna ever value it at $1 million.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm not the expert.
well, no, that's what I mean, but I'd ask that question, if you know, why, because, I mean, obviously, when a building and land sells at a certain price, that price means something.
Absolutely.
But when a piece of vacant land sells for a certain value.
Yeah, what are you buying? Are you buying potential or-
Well, that's it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I don't know the law on it per se, I just know it based on what I've seen over the years, there's not a direct connection between those two, so.
Yeah, and I think that more of what this project is going to look at improved. Yeah, it's not going to be, there's a lot of improved land there.
So, I guess, so the next question is remove full revaluation, right? That's the next question you're on, from 62,000 to 0.
That was the one I was on.
Yeah, so, okay, so that, to me, was, don't, you know, when we go through a full revaluation, don't we pick up on those other pieces in that, within the 5-year cycle? It's a 5-year cycle,
So, yeah,
right?
so this, what we did was, this isn't what's called a full reval. A full reval is where you do all the properties, you do every property in town the same year. And so we're doing what's a 5-year cyclical with a statistical revaluation in the 5th year. So it's not really considered a full reval, it's a full statistical reval. So you actually don't, you actually do your pickups each over the 4 years, and then the 5th year is when you do your homework and do the revaluation of all property sales. And it's actually, this is broken down into 2 different, it's one contract with 3 different components. One is the general assessing services, the next is the cyclical revaluation, and the third is the full statistical reval. So, I mean, it's complicated. It is, so this is default budget stuff because it's been a contract that's in, like, this is the 5th year of that contract.
So we need to pick and choose what
Yeah.
you know, because you have other people.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
So legal, I know there was a suggestion to cut that from 80,000 to 50,000. There is a section for planning and zoning legal under the planning and zoning budget, not under legal expenses. The legal expenses, that budget for 80,000 is used for many different things. Legal action, legal research, assistance with writing warrant articles, attending meetings, handling personnel issues, reviewing contracts, agreements. As we know, in most larger businesses, there's always a threat of legal action. There's also in this, in the legal budget is legal preparation, court representation if needed. As being an employer and a business, basically we are a business, we get threats all the time from individuals or groups. There's so many RSAs, there's Right to Know Act, there's state and federal laws and rules that we have challenges all the time. And the 80,000 is smaller than what it has been in some past budgets.
So I'm just looking, it's on page 10 of 42. So we have 97,600 on that. For legal expenses under that category is 80,000. And you have year-to-date expenses of 30,000 on that. And on the collective bargaining, 16,000. I know that's the end of September.
As of right now, between the both of them, $68,000 is what we've expended, and this is as of the end of November.
So 68 and
We've spent-
97, and there's
And it's constant, so, I mean, we're communicating with attorneys every day. I don't know where we'll be by the end of the year, but I would hate, this is not somewhere where you would shoot yourself in the foot by not having enough legal representation.
Well, you can't just arbitrarily say, let's make it less.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I was just, so I guess maybe in defense of Jim,
Okay.
okay? That, I know that we don't have year-to-date, the actual year-to-date, and I'm with you, we don't want to cut our noses off to say, okay, we want the representation one, because if we don't have representation, sometimes we get into worse issues. But for you, how much do you have right now, year-to-date?
Total, $68,060.
So that's almost $30,000 less than what we, that they're requesting, 97.6.
You and there's about a month delay in invoicing too, so we won't be getting our full billing out until January. So even though this is up to date in November, we still have 2 full months of invoices that are still not here.
Right, I was just gonna request that, because the select board would have more information if they could just take a look at that and make adjustments on that. You have until when? January what?
14th, I think.
January 14th is the date that I have to get everything together and try to pull together final numbers on a warrant.
I think in the prior year, this was at 110, and we dropped it to 90. So I mean, we've been trying to watch it.
Yeah, just to watch it a
Yeah.
little bit more, that's all I think. That's the only thing we can really request.
Under financial administration, there was questions about grant consulting. Again, discussion about grants. There's many legal and documented requirements for them. Certain types of advertising, posting, legal notices, oversight, certified payrolls, Davis-Bacon Act, which I didn't write in there,
Quarterly reports.
quarterly reports. Current staffing in the finance department does not give enough time to oversee and follow the grant administration to the levels that are required by state and federal grants. If there's one thing that is done incorrectly, the town could lose the grant funding or have to pay back the grant funds if it has received, that it has received on a particular grant. For example, you use out-of-the-country steel for making a bridge that you receive money on from a grant. They find out about it, they find out that it's not made in the USA. That whole bridge could be disallowed, and your taxpayers would be forced to make payment on whatever monies we receive from the grant.
And that was just a reduction of 5,000, so
Yeah.
let's just move on that.
Planning and zoning, there was a suggestion to remove professional services for CIP. And the CIP committee has done a great job over the years in identifying the needs of the town. This change was because we want to continue the efforts of having good information and have a third party, an independent party review from an outside professional reviewing the CIP program and get the recommendations from that individual or vendor, using the information to give us some direction for the town in planning for the future and budgetary needs.
Okay. So, not to jump in here, so we've gone through assessing, right, and we haven't?
Yes.
On some of the questions we
Yes.
have. We've gone through assessing. I just.
Was there any other questions?
Yeah,
on the
I just want to be
assessment
able to let them go with
Mine is,
budget? Tax collecting?
no, sewer.
sewer, okay.
The sewer, the last page, there's a question on that.
So I can move to that.
No, it's whatever, I just didn't know if we could
Okay.
allow some people to go.
Police department will hold off on. Fire department will hold off on. Public works, we will hold off on because we have a lot of warrant articles to go over as well. Rental assistance, there was a suggestion to reduce the rental assistance from 40,000 to 30,000. The welfare director responded saying the rental assistance cannot be reduced. The town requires to assist any eligible applicant regardless of what has been budgeted for town welfare. In the years past, and she gave us a comparison and she asked us to look at it. Roughly the overall welfare budget has been about $65,000 a year. So that was one thing, the cost. If you looked at the reports that were sent to you, that is the average that's spent. Last year we did cut it dramatically and asked to use funds out of the trust funds. So the trust fund helped support it, what was cut from the budget, because we've already overexpended the welfare budget. We've actually asked the trustees to pay back $14,000 out of that fund. We currently have, or will have by the end of the year, $8,000 in that fund.
And basically, we're required by law to pay out welfare, we can't cut it.
Didn't you say last week that the individuals who are seeking assistance is increasing?
Yeah, I talked to the welfare director about that today, because it looks like we're not too far off from the average from previous years. And she was saying that there's more people with smaller requests. So.
What page is the welfare money?
Welfare budget is,
which means the volume is up. The volume of welfare claims is up, and
29.
because there's so many claims, it just takes a lot more time to
My
process.
page numbers may be a little bit off from yours, but I believe it's 29. As of right now, expended as of the end of November is $62,443.
So, I'm confused. On the welfare and in some other revenue neutral departments, I do remember the names here, we've transferred monies in and out, like the sewer, we've transferred it to cover costs. And so for the welfare too, we've done that to cover, I think, some of Seal's expenses.
We did
Right.
a small amount, 25% of Seal's cost.
So that goes to a different department to offset her expenses, or it comes from?
Came from a different department.
Comes from a different department, okay.
So that's part of the increase in that budget.
Okay.
And in previous years, we did budget more. I don't have exactly what we had budgeted in the past, but if you look at the report that she sent you, at this column, you're going to see ranges. 2007 was a very good year, with 41,000. But one of the higher years, it was 81,000 in 2009 that we expended. And when she did the average, it was coming up just over 60,000 a year that she's expending.
I was just trying to figure out which way the money was flowing on that, so.
And right now, it's flowing out of one budget to this budget because of the number of hours that it actually takes to administer the welfare program. So basically, the welfare budget is artificially low because they're using another staffers and another line item to administer the program.
So I'm going to move to patriotic purposes. He asked about reducing advertising from 2,000 to 1,000, which I couldn't quite understand. The expenses under patriotic purposes are basically the expenditures for the flags on the cemetery for Memorial Day and the Memorial Day cookout in the park. Those are what the costs cover. I'll move to, let's see.
Karen, who covers the flags on Main Street? Is that?
That's through the chamber. We did help out with some flag replacement in their budget a couple years ago, about $750.
And does Littleton Water and Marge provide Do they install those or?
They, as far as I know, they hang,
They install
I don't
the
know if they
flags.
charge.
No, they don't.
No.
I just
They
wanted
do
to say
the-
that's an assistance there. that-
They hang the Christmas lights on the library tree and the Christmas lights on the poles and the flags and banners.
I'm gonna go past transfer station, because there's a warrant article for that, we'll come back to that. Parking meter expenditures, there was a talk about reducing the expenditures of the parking meter from 19,000 to 1,000 for the maintenance and striping. The parking meter budget doesn't have a tax impact to the taxpayers. Even if DPW did the work, there's still the cost for materials, tar, paving, design, engineering, purchasing and installing meters. So there is other costs besides just painting the parking lots. And we know that there's a lot of parking lots in town that the town has, either they rent from different places from, or they own that need some major repair.
Yeah, this next year, we're gonna be, there is that $20,000 there this next year. We have the parking plan, and we're going to be continuing to implement it. We have a purchase and sale signed, and we're finishing up our phase 2 to get rid of the barn at 17 Hillview, and that's gonna leave a huge hole, so there's gonna need to be some work done in that parking lot to get us ready for it to be used for parking. In addition to the other parking lots that are in the top sheet.
So I'm gonna move to the question about what percentage of taxpayers are actually sewer users. And I believe Amy has the answer to that.
Thank you. Yeah, so, let's see. So 48% of Littleton's residents are sewer users. 40% of the households. correct?
Households, yeah.
48% of the properties?
Yeah, probably.
From the properties.
Yeah.
Are-
48% of the properties, whether it's 10 acres out on Broomstick or whatever it is,
Just what we do by household or by parcel?
I did it by parcels. and
Okay.
then-
by parcel.
Yeah,
So
so.
48% of the parcels of land in town, be they a house lot or 100 acres, are connected to the sewer system.
Yeah, and we looked at the proposed increase, and we looked at like an average, like for a family of 4, their average annual bill will be $510. With the increase, it come out to $8.51 a month, that's $102 a year. We looked at the state averages for the sewer system, and we're significantly lower than the state average. Being the lowest, been to some presentations on infrastructure management that DS puts on, and they said being the lowest is not good. It's usually a sign that you're mismanaging your infrastructure for the future. You're kind of kicking the can down the road, which we're kind of in that place right now. And so, I think the state average was around $680 per household. And so, we're looking at a residential rate, 500 to 600. We do have some large commercial users, so if we take that into account, I guess that's closer to like a $600 average. So even though we're 20% increase, we're 20% of a much lower number than what's on with that.
Okay, so Jim picked up on that, and I picked up, because I got my sewer bill out, and I said, okay, how much is this gonna impact me this year? Because, again, with the taxes, and we have different departments that are revenue neutral, all right? And so that also means that the rate, there's a rate for that, a user fee for that. So I'm going, okay, so we have the taxes over here, and we have the fees over here, and they're all together, they're combined to run the town. So I was wondering, okay, so we can't forget that we're just looking at the tax rate, but we're also looking whether or not we're impacting the homeowner in a different way. So we're seriously impacting 48% of the parcels in town and not generically all over. And some people would say, well, it's a user fee, but it is $100 that we have to keep in mind that because we're transferring money out or in, I don't know which way you want to, because
Transferring money in or expenses out?
but something,
Yes.
I don't know what it is. So, because we're trying to cover the costs and the expenses of those that are actually doing the work, sending out the sewer bills, collecting the sewer bills, posting the sewer bills. So then we're whichever way it goes, so we're impacting that fee. So again, going back to, it's probably a broader topic area than just the sewer. The parking lot and the parking meter fund and the parking expenses, that is also revenue neutral too, correct? However, at one time we had, I think we transferred, maybe I'm incorrect, transferred some of the, we had assistants at the PD. I can't remember who the person was, but we were paying part of her salary.
Yeah, the meter maid or whatever.
Well, she wasn't a meter maid.
Yeah, right, well.
But she was taking care of, you
The
know.
bookkeeping.
The bookkeeping administrator, there you go.
Yeah.
But then we decided, didn't we? We did. We moved it back. So every once in a while, I think,
There's none.
are we doing ourselves any favors by like tracking it back and forth? Because they found that by shifting it back to the PD budget, that we were now saving more money to buy more parking lots. So what was the intent of, I guess, the parking meter fund? What was the intent of it? And then when you start to siphon off in different directions, then you're losing the original intent. So to me, with the sewer, are we losing some of the original intent there? Probably not.
Yeah, a way to look at, like, if we created a separate municipal district and a separate municipal entity to run the sewer system, and just said, okay, the town municipal government's not gonna run this. Let's pass this off, we're gonna have another third, like Littleton Water and Light, for example. You would have to, it would be more expensive because you'd have to bring on all of the staff needed to manage the system. So I think that the intent of the law with create these funds is to make sure that they're not being subsidized, and they're also not subsidizing anything else. They're supposed to be, true cost accounted for them. So with the parking meter fund, the same thing though. I would say, if the intention of the parking meter fund was to be self-sufficient, take care of the parking, it was parking and sidewalks. And there used to be a sidewalk district.
And some of the funds can be used for highway improvement as well, on the streets.
But if we were to take a look at the same thing and say, okay, the fees should be adjusted to help take care of the actual, infrastructure that's there. Our fees are way too low, our fines are way too low. There's no way that thing is sustainable. In fact, it's bleeding money. We were spending $20,000 a year that was used to take some buildings down for a head development years ago, and so the fund basically had no money left over year after year. And so, we moved with such a small fund, moving the debt out and moving some of the staff to it. Should some of it be there? Probably. But we're kind of in an emerging situation now in our parking lots where we're going to do something.
I think the bigger point, Diane, is obviously that we're shifting the whole bill from entire community, all property owners,
To the users.
to half of the property owners.
Right.
And whether or not that's appropriate.
The sewer.
For the sewer.
So, or anything that we do in that direction, yes.
Is it relevant that I just spent $28,000 replacing my septic system?
Yeah.
Do you know that the town of
I understand what you're
Littleton,
saying, yeah.
at one time, we would have provided you with a free septic system before 1978 or something?
Fine.
Well,
Mine was the last name.
Yes.
Then your sewer rates would really went up.
Well, anyways, and
But yes.
I think part of it too is we're trying to track it better, right? We're trying to track the expenses better.
Yes.
The number of hours that you're putting into, managing the sewer bills and all that. Okay, I won't say anymore.
So,
But thank you.
were there any other questions that Amy might be able to answer, or Joanna, about planning, zoning, or tax collecting, sewer tax collecting, or sewer user collecting the fees?
So if the sewer fees are too little, who's looking at that?
We report to DES as part of our when we participate in like the Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund, that's like the sub-5 project, we have to report all that information to them. When we do USDA projects, same thing. But we analyze it, the auditors analyze it. It's in our annual audit as far as if there's any findings or recommendations by our third-party audit.
And the budget number is looked at when we do the billing. Amy asks for the budget information so that she's not overbilling. She's billing for what is budgeted.
There's a DRA form.
Well, there's a formula that they came up with that we use what they use for cubic feet of water. And then I use the budget, and then I figure out the rate with how much cubic feet has been put into the system. So it's like $5 and whatever.
So there's a DRA form too for utilities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's that.
So there's tons of oversight.
Yeah, just wondering.
Federal, state, and local. Third party.
And yes, I pity you for $28,900.
So was there anything else for questions?
CIP would also be under planning zoning, so I don't know if there's any questions about that.
So, tell me, I guess, you're gonna hire a person to oversee that, and what would that entail? What would their responsibilities, how would it materialize? What would it look like? At the end of the year, what are we gonna have?
So, Joanna, do you want to speak to what a CIP is, or is it required? What the town enacted, I think, in the requirement for it? That sort of thing.
I forget what year that there was the vote to develop the committee.
Yeah. Early 2000s, I think it was. Yeah.
2011.
And it's supposed to be updated every 5 years, and ours is expired. The planning board tried to get together a volunteer group last time, and there just wasn't really much interest on it to actually create a committee. We started collecting the information ourselves. Some of that information, can shows up like in our equipment plans that we're starting to gather and show you. But this third party would come in, gather all the information. Usually this is where like an official town planner would handle this. We don't have that. So we would sub it out. They would gather all the information, put it into a report, and present it to the planning board for acceptance. And I don't know if that's to go to town meeting after that.
I don't know.
Yeah. So then it would become another tool that we use for long-range planning, tax rate stabilization, that sort of thing. But it's a requirement of the planning board. I'm not sure if it's state law. No.
I just didn't know what that 10,000 was gonna look like at the end of the year.
Yeah, it's creating another planning document. So, I mean, if you take it, like, I have some money also built into the executive line for some contracted planning services where I was planning on contracting out with North Country Council to have kind of like a la carte services. Again, we don't have a town planner, so some of the things would be to take the parking plan, the town's master plan, the bicycle pedestrian plan. When developers submit complex plans, and they would do more a la carte services like that to keep some of these things going. Or if there's multiple projects that are layering on top of each other like Mill Street, they would handle coordinating with the local businesses and doing some of the planning efforts for that. So we're continuing that same spirit of outsourcing where it makes sense.
Okay, so the next step, I'd like to move on to the library, if we're done asking their questions.
What page?
The library budget.
31? Page 31?
Yes. Yes. And I didn't know if there was any questions on that from the budget committee. They also have a warrant article, which is number 35. It's on the back page. Library building improvement, puts money in their capital reserve. They have a project underway that I believe is partially funded by a grant. They have $30,000 saved at this point. They actually need $45,000 to do the project for their share of the match. So this 15,000 would be the other portion of match for that grant that they're going after. And the grant is for air,
The grant is for a heat and air units on the outside of the building to improve the quality of the air, which is all part of the building assessment that we had done last year. The air quality is needed to be improved for the historical preservation of the objects in our New Hampshire room, the historical room, as well as the artwork, which is quite precious, to say the very least. Does this have anything to do with, it's heat and air, but does this have anything to do with the cooling as well? Yes. Okay, because the units will help heat, which will reduce our oil use, and then they'll cool in the summer, which will remove the big units from the windows. The windows is another part of our big overall project. It's within the next 3 points that we need to address first. We have roof repairs that need to be made on the back side of the building. I think it was in the 70s when there was an addition to put the lift in the rear of the building for handicap access. It's a flat roof. We've had issues with that over the years. And then there's some brickwork repairs and chimney repairs that need to be addressed as well. The windows will probably be the biggest expense because trying to keep the windows within the historical content of the building, it's pricey. And the heat and air units as well are part of the historic, it keeps it. That will not interfere with the historic value of the building. No. Right, so it won't interfere. It will improve not only the quality of air for the art, but for the employees there. For the employees and our patrons, and also for the books. The humidity gets really bad in the summer, which doesn't help anything in the building. It's very hot. It's very hot in there.
So Jenny, is this going to be a full-fledged air conditioning system or not?
It will replace and improve the air conditioning as we've had it.
You had window units for air conditioning.
Correct.
So this will be a centralized, if you would, air conditioning system?
It's a heat pump system.
It's a heat pump system with air.
The Mitsubishi heat pump units.
Okay.
Yeah.
You can't do central air basically
It
because
would be almost impossible.
it'd be impossible. So this is the next best.
They're
thing
better
to
than
that.
Central, yeah. The Mitsubishi heat pump, so the new technology, they're better than, they're
Right.
better than anything.
It was the recommendation of the company that did the building assessment for us.
And I think, this is a great project, and it's an example of how those grant funds go to work, because this is a USDA grant, I believe, right?
It is,
Community
we've been
Facilities Grant,
working, right.
with our contractor under our.
Yes, and the assessment actually was done, Megan had applied for a grant, Megan, the director, had applied for a grant through the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, which covered the cost of the building assessment for us. So she has experience in grant writing. We're doing everything we can to improve on the building and what we offer the town. And we're trying to keep the cost as minimal as possible. We also have the luxury of very good friends of the library who do fundraising for us, and they help with some of the less expensive items that have to be done.
So James, this won't be central air per se, but it will air condition the entire building?
It should.
It should.
The cost of the warrant article estimated tax impact is .023 cents per thousand.
And that
So you
project
get more
would be
than your
done.
pennies worth, because
Yeah.
we're
So when would the project be done if this passes?
we're hoping to have it done by springtime.
Yes, as soon as we can get the money and get the contractors.
Okay, great, thank you. I don't mean to be fast, but we're.
No, we're fine with that.
Is there any other questions on their budget?
No, I just have a quick question. So I think the intention was maybe to also vote on some of these tonight, to kind of get those out of the way. Do you want to vote on those before the people go, in case there's questions that come up prior to the vote? Because, it does seem like usually what happens is more questions come up just before the vote, and the people aren't really here to address them anymore. So,
Well, I mean, obviously, we haven't made the progress tonight already that we were hoping to make that. I think last year we had tried to identify the quick and easy if you
Yeah.
go ahead and try to knock all those off, which that's one approach. And then,
They have after the bigger ones.
yeah,
I don't mind, on something like that, I probably would have my mind set up, but I don't know if we need to see the bigger picture before we vote. I don't know, Steve. You want to vote on it?
yeah. I mean, I personally don't mind going in. I guess in my mind tonight when I came here, I was thinking that we would, try to address everything that we felt comfortable with addressing initially, at least get those done and behind us, and then move on to the more difficult ones.
On this one then?
And the question, we're gonna vote on this one, should we then, so
Continue, I don't know.
should we vote on all the
What
other
do you
ones?
guys think?
We should be consistent in that, how we're gonna, if we're gonna do, this
Some.
one, we should, either do them as they come up here and then the larger ones later.
Yeah, in most cases, nobody's gonna be here on most of these
But
articles.
the ones with people here, maybe we
Sure,
should just
yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so, okay, we can start with this one, and then any other ones that there's somebody here presenting, so, okay, so having said that, so we have the library improvement request of $15,000, and Andrew Karen already stated the actual tax impact based on the numbers we currently have. So, any further discussion on the library?
If this warrant article is approved, does that mean you can go ahead with the HVAC project
Yes,
this spring?
yes.
That's approved at the March town meeting.
If it's approved by the vote?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And Karen, are these numbers going to stay the same if we refer to it as Article 35? Is it 35?
It may change.
Okay, so we'll have to make sure we don't just mark it as 35, but mark it as...
we could change it at this point.
Well, they've moved around before.
Yeah,
Petition article.
a petition, a bond article or a zoning article.
Yeah, I just didn't want to have confusion after.
So we're better off to give it the title that we have it.
Okay,
Yeah, good point.
okay, so all those in favor of approving the library building improvement warrant article as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And are you voting?
I don't know, so that's four.
Okay, so 4?
4 is it? And make sure you get the right column.
Yeah.
And there's a budget committee column and board of
BC.
selectmen's column.
Yes, BC, no. I got it.
Here.
BC, okay.
BC, Budget Committee.
Budget committee, yes, and the board of selectmen.
Yeah, it's not at the top here on this one. We have it at the top.
All right. Okay. Any other warrant articles that somebody's here that may want to speak to them?
The dog park, the opera house, and the transfer station.
Thank you so much. The trustees will be meeting tomorrow night and will be very pleased.
Okay, well, we thank you very much. It's truthfully a breath of fresh air that, we now have a plan, comprehensive plan that's going to
Yes.
build on itself year to year, and we want to thank you for your efforts in that behalf, because,
It's been an exciting time to be a trustee.
yeah, well, good. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so Doc, which one do you want to
Let's
do?
do the dog park and then the Parks and Rec budget if there's questions. I believe those are the only two for Chris. So the dog park is dog park recreation development. The warrant article is to request $20,000 with $10,000 come from donations they've received. The tax impact is estimated to be 0.016.
And what is this year's dog park?
You will have to talk to Mr.
So I recently.
Chris, come on, come on.
That meeting?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, let's get over here.
So I recently met with Robert Nutter, Aaron Hennessy, and the facilities manager at the hospital. And we're working with them to define land that they would like to donate through, I believe, easement. So we're trying to define those boundaries right now. And that would be around 5 acres that we could build on. And we would probably do a 1 acre park to start. And then it would give us room to expand in the future as it grows or we need more space.
Adjacent to the hospital.
Yes, I believe she's right across Hilltop Road, which is just north of the hospital. It's right, so we'd use their parking lot, their facility. And we'll talk more, about some other projects with them in the future. But they would like to donate land to us, so we have space. We just need to get it defined and work on drawing up paperwork for that. So that meeting was last week.
And then you start saying, not actually donating you the land, but
Giving us
the easement on the land.
the permanent easement, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And donations right now, to date?
To date, we are at,
$46 short of 10,000.
yep,
So our goal was 8,000 this year, we're hoping to raise, and we raised just $46 short of 10,000. So for grassroots fundraising, we did very well this year.
we
I mean,
recently,
we were out every weekend, everywhere, so.
we recently we were the partner of the month at the co-op in November, and we raised $5,836. We are a partner of the month again in 2020, and I believe it's July.
Yeah.
And those have all been averaging over $5,000.
Is that the deal where they round up?
Yes, it's the rounding up program that they do. So we'll be doing that again. We're still putting in our efforts. We're selling t-shirts still, so it's ongoing. So we're at 10,000 and yeah, we're gonna keep going.
Yeah.
So assuming that we get, that the partner of the month does well again, that should put us around 15.
And not that it should preclude this or whatever, but last year's proposal, it still ultimately would be nice to have a dog park more in town.
It would.
And doing this doesn't preclude that happening at some point in
No,
the future.
and we would like to use some of the funds that we've raised to put amenities at Remick Park so that people can use our half-mile walkway, and they can't use the fields, but they can still use the parks. The only place that the zoning ordinance prohibits dogs from being is in the ball fields, to keep the dogs off the fields. So we want to promote that in the parks, so we'll be adding some of that stuff.
Questions? You ready for a vote? All those in favor of supporting Article 38, dog park, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0 in favor.
And they also did let us know that they're going to help us with some of the excavation costs and things like that. So it's not just the land that they're going to let us use, but also helping us make it happen. So
We hope that we can get some donations for fencing from a company that will donate. I've already been in talks with a dog food company who is very interested in maybe helping us with the fencing. And so we're trying to do cost with donations from assorted people.
And another huge thank you to Sue. She's been a huge part of the dog park. She's selling stuff in her office all day long, promoting it, running the
Every
Facebook pages at the
fundraiser.
events. So Sue has been the head of
Thank you, Chris.
that project.
Thank you.
So
Okay, thank you.
Wait, okay. There may be questions on the budget.
What page?
32 and 33 of 42. Actually, the proposed budget for the parks is down $6,732 from 2019's approved budget. It's a 1.51% reduction.
Yeah. And that's still your October 9th version, right?
The October
9th
9th version
is
is
still,
the same.
is still the
yes.
current version?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess,
There was no questions on Jim's list for
No.
Parks and Rec.
that's fine. Have you come to MOU?
No, we haven't had a meeting in a while. We haven't drawn up, I have to make some edits on our final document still. But
Is that included in the revenues?
No,
Okay, so
I
we're
do
good.
not
So,
have the
okay.
6,000 included in
Just wanted
there.
to make sure.
Be nice, but.
That's fine. I don't have any questions on that. Does anyone else?
So Chris,
great talk, everybody.
We let you off easy, Chris, but you do a great job, we appreciate it.
Thank you, it's been a fun year.
And as I said before, that's just yourself, but there's no department in town that's paid more value out of a dollar than the fire department.
So, do our best.
We appreciate it.
Great.
Well, that was it. So there's no warrant articles for that one?
just that.
It was just the budget. Okay. Thank
Um,
you, Chris. That was easy.
Do I leave after that?
You
Yeah,
get-
you can. You got a baby to go home to.
Thank you. Thank you, much appreciated.
Yeah.
I know, pleasant surprise.
I'm gonna move to
Thank
the
you,
transfer station. I'm trying to do the easier ones first. Transfer station, they have their budget, which is on page 38 and 39. The budget, the amount needed from taxation is $20,382 more than 2019. It is a 15% increase. A lot of that has to do with market rate. It's 38 and 39 and 42.
I think.
And they've been dated September 30th?
The last one, yes, for the budget. I have the updated numbers for the expenditures and revenues. As of the end of November, the expenditures totaled $357,660. And that was as of the end of November. Revenues were $307, $307,000 were the revenues. And there was a question on Jim's report, or Jim's questions, related to the transfer station. He suggested that we reduce the transportation expenditures from $32,000 to $20,000. And my response to that was the transportation costs have increased over the past year in the transfer station budget. The cost is for trucking materials out from the transfer station, a cost that we cannot control.
And what line item was the?
Transportation is
34?
34.
Yeah,
So,
one.
yeah, revenues to the end of November, you said, were $307,000?
Yes,
Okay, as opposed to the,
259 that was budgeted.
right, or 270, so Brian, things went a little bit better than
Yeah.
expected, which
We
is
hit the
good.
markets great on scrap metal,
Yeah, okay.
which we try to do, but there's no guarantee, and metal's just dropping like crazy still.
Well, anyway, obviously, nice to have a little good news. And we're expecting a banner month in December? No. Anyway, that's good. Okay, well, thank you.
The only reductions that could possibly be done to this budget would be closing more hours, reducing staff further. or upping the prices. Those are the only choices we really have on this budget. And if you reduce the staff, you gotta reduce the hours.
And you reduce revenue, so it
Yes.
makes it even more difficult.
Right, so user fees, we go through that every year, so I'm just curious how often those are really looked at and, adjusted. I would hope that at least once a year, there's a big review of,
I'm constantly reviewing it. So, for an example, like stuff we send to the landfill, we're actually pretty much doubling our money right now. So say revenue's $200,000 for stuff that goes to the landfill, it only costs us about $100,000 to actually dispose of them. So that's...
Between tipping fees and...
Yeah, exactly. So we're really good on that. It's,
Yeah, not counting the operational part.
and even the bags and things
Yeah.
like that. You look at that and review it and
Oh, yeah.
make sure that,
yeah.
We
I
increased the
love
prices
stats.
on the bags, what was it, Milton, you remember, was that 20?
A couple years ago, yeah.
17, yeah.
well, that's the reason I'm
Yeah.
asking, because I know we had a big review a couple years ago, and there was a recommendation to increase those fees. I just want to continue to always look at that and not get
Definitely.
10 years behind on it. So,
Absolutely, then do one big job that makes
Yeah.
it difficult.
Yeah.
Right.
The next thing is going to be if the landfill closes next year. It's going to be interesting.
if it closes next year, then that's going to be.
And the next alternative is gonna be Mount Carvary.
Tipping fees.
Yes.
Okay. And they just reduced fees for certain communities, right?
For member communities.
And what constitutes a member?
I know they wanted, back 10, 15 years ago, they wanted Lancaster to become a member community, and Lancaster was going to have to pay them $300,000 to $400,000 a year to become a member, and you don't get any real revenue for your recyclables. You all ship everything right through them. So it's really definitely not worth it.
It's better obviously something that could be talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, the landfill was gonna have a significant increase.
So he has a warrant article as well
Mhm.
to reuse his funds that are in there's actually two warrant articles for the transfer station. The one is to discontinue the special revenue fund, close it out to the general fund, and then pull it back and put it into a revolving fund versus a special revenue. Then he becomes part of our budget again. It's not going to be a separate warrant article after that. It will, again, compact our process on our budget, where we used to have consolidated departments. This is going to bring that back.
Again, this all has to do, or is driven by
DRA.
this couple of, 2-3 years ago, when all of a sudden they decided that something should be.
Any special revenue fund cannot be part of our operating budget.
Right.
Revolving fund can.
Right, and if it's gonna be, it has to be voted on every year.
As a special revenue fund,
Right.
yes.
And if it failed,
They may not have a budget.
right, you could lose a department, well, lose
Yeah.
an entity, not a department. Right, that's,
You would lose the transfer station.
yeah, that's right, so that's the reason.
That's
driving
one of
this.
the reasons, yes.
Well, the big one.
One, it makes it easier budget-wise to know that's going to be part of those numbers.
Yeah. But at the time we had set it up separately, it was basically so they could do like Brian, show their, well, they probably still be able to show your revenue and your
It's
activity or whatever.
still going to be separate as far as what happens to his funds. They'll continue to go into their fund balance and be reused.
So their funds would not become a part of our general funds?
Right.
It would stay separate?
Yes. It still has to close out to the general fund and be reopened as a revolving fund.
But the reason we did it originally was that we didn't have this risk or interpretation from the state, so that's why we set it up separately the way we did. Now
And-
there's a risk to having it that way.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So we have
So the
7
one-
and 8, right?
Yes, 7, and then 8 is their budget. And then 21 is the use of their funds.
Karen, if you don't mind, I hate to ask this, but would you tell us again why we're doing this? Why
Why we are doing.
we have these warrant articles for the transfer station?
Okay, to close out the special revenue fund. The special revenue fund it was voted on years ago to have the transfer station as a special revenue fund, which they get to keep their money in their fund balance that they've earned above their expenditures. They get to use that money again, but they get to use it by the vote of the voters through a warrant article. They became separate from the budget a couple of years ago. DRA put their foot down and said any special revenue fund had to be voted on separately by the voters and is not part of the operating expenses. So what we want to do in the number 7 is to discontinue the special revenue and make it a revolving fund. We're opening it back up as a revolving fund, meaning their funds still are theirs. We can set it up on that warrant article so the selectmen are authorized to expend from that revolving fund, not having to have a separate warrant article for them to expend from that fund. And it also makes it so they're included in part of our operating budget. So when you look at this list of warrant articles, it's going to cut down 2 or 3 of the warrant articles on here, and also include them in our overall budget review.
Thank you.
Okay?
But when Karen says the DRA put their foot down, we didn't know there was a foot to be put down.
No.
I mean, really, it just all of a sudden it was like a new interpretation. You know, like they told us one thing 30 years ago, and now all of a sudden they're reinterpreting what they had told us and moved the goalpost basically. And the risk is if this is set up, if that warrant article didn't pass, then in
They're
theory.
in default,
Yeah.
to tell you the truth, that there wouldn't be a default under special revenue, where under revolving fund, there is a default budget.
So it's a bit of a strange thing. You gotta really call it what it is, but I mean, you know, how they can do something like this, I mean, you know, it's kind of beyond belief, if you would, but anyway.
There's always complications when you're dealing with somebody that seems to have a lot of control like the IRS.
Yeah, that's right, yeah, so all of a sudden it's somebody's reading something different than the person that was there before. But anyway, what Karen says will make sense. I mean, it's the safer way to go and won't really functionally change the way things
No.
are being done.
It makes it easier for budget-wise,
Good.
for all of us, and one less warrant article at least, if not 2.
And
So-
I also think it shows the true cost of running a town, because it's all together in one number.
Yeah.
All right.
So anyway, so we'd like to take 3 votes. Yeah, if everybody feels comfortable. So the first is Article 7, Transfer Station, to discontinue the Special Revenue Fund. Okay, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that's passed 4-0. The second is,
The budget.
Article 8,
Yeah.
the operating budget, which,
The estimated tax impact
yeah,
is 0.244 cents per thousand. And that's for their budget, offset by their revenues.
and the, whatever excess they have this year,
That will go to the general fund and then be pulled back out of the general fund to start their special
right, but
revenue.
it would have normally gone into their
Fund balance.
fund balance.
Trust fund,
their fund
Their fund
balance
balance,
for the
yes.
operation, normally would have, so.
And there is no, it's not gonna go into the general fund.
It will,
At the
then
beginning.
pulled back out.
Back
Probably the
out.
same transaction or a transaction number later, you know, one behind the other.
Yeah,
It's not gonna get lost in the
No.
general fund.
But in future,
Brian will make sure of it.
in future years, it'll go into their,
It's still gonna go into their fund balance, and they'll keep using it.
their revolving fund balance.
Okay.
So everybody feels comfortable with understanding that is kind of gray as it is and why it's happening. So on Article 8, transfer station operating budget, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4.
Then we've got 21, which is transfer station, repair, replacement, equipment and building, 35,000. This is no cost to the taxpayer because it's reusing the funds that they have in their balance.
That's taking the same type of funds, if you would, that we're talking about, taking it out to be used for a specific purpose. And taking out that 35 will leave in there roughly, I don't know,
I'm gonna estimate at least 15,000.
okay.
By the end of this year, it will be more.
So Article 21, transfer station. All those in favor of approving the removal of $35,000 from their reserve funds, if you would, for the purpose of repairing, replacing equipment and buildings. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, 4-0.
Okay, thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Milt.
Mel, what was your role here?
I was asked to be here at 4 o'clock. I will tell you, as the health officer, not the zoning officer, there is an awful lot of dog poop everywhere. So the dog park will ultimately help that process. Hopefully. Have a good night.
No, thank you very much.
I'm gonna move to the Opera House. I'm sorry, guys, but the Opera House is smaller
Yeah.
budget.
Regarding Article 9, operating budget.
Yes, and I need to find the page. That is on page 40, 42. There is an increase for tax appropriation from 2019 of $10,635. Their budget actually increased $8,136, which is an 8.44% increase on the budget. But the amount of revenues has been adjusted down because we still need to get these rooms done to rent out.
What page specifically?
Page 40 and 42.
And that's still good at the 11/15/19 figure, right?
Yes.
So $10,635 increase.
And this one cannot be done as a revolving fund. There's certain list of funds that can be used as revolving funds, and this is not one of them.
Otherwise, we'd be considering this.
I would
also.
consider it.
Okay, so number 9, Opera House operating budget. There's no other
Yes.
questions.
The estimated tax impact is .096 per thousand. That is under warrant article number 9. And we do have some other ones on here that are warrant articles. We have number 19, which is Opera House rigging. We have been trying to get this complete. The funding for it ended up being lost in encumbrances because it's been 2 years, and after 2 years, we end up losing it back into the fund balance. So our plan is to pull that 15,000 out, and the estimated cost is running about 30,000 on that rigging. We really need to have some experts putting that up, not just volunteers.
And I do have some good news on that. I just got another email from one of of our contractors. We've got 2 different contractors working, and we're waiting for their final draft plans. And we're gonna combine, hopefully, the lights, the sound, and the rigging all together, which we can get a better buy for the buck.
And have it all done.
Have it all done at once. Andrew's been working very hard on getting grants, and we do fundraisers. I do about 4 fundraisers a year to bring in a few thousand. We've got another fundraiser coming up this Saturday with a concert. So I really hope, and Doug Danko has been an amazing help to me with all of this engineering aspect and things like that. So I really do think that that is going to be accomplished in 2020.
Is the rigging for flying machinery?
Yes, so the rigging is not only for lighting, but also for any community theater or any production that goes on in here, the Nutcracker from Creative Edge, anything. They can adjust with piping to have their props however they want it. And we're going to do a movable one instead of static ones that stay stationary. So they can move piping within that rigging. We've been conferring with theater company to make sure that what we're doing is going to work for them as well. So, and work for the Opera House.
The other Opera House warrant article is continued improvements. We had some funds that had been encumbered for a couple of years. The auditors made us push it back to the fund balance. Some of it was the funds from the energy conservation grant that we were supposed to get. We did get some work done, but it kind of got to a standstill. Hadn't been used for 2 years, so it got pushed back to fund balance, and we're asking to pull that money back.
Okay, Kevin, so why is it, that's on number 20?
On number 20, it
Okay.
shows you 30,000 and 30,000 as an offsetting revenue. We're going to pull that money back from fund balance.
And what improvements?
Oh, okay, so-
Would this be energy related, or would it
It
be
could
to
be
upgrade
energy,
those
it could be
rooms?
this
It
room.
could be,
No,
any-
it's-
yep, any of the above, yep.
Okay, so we,
I mean, it would be, you know, important for the Opera House for moving forward if we can get this room done. I mean, it's ready to go, we cleaned it out, we've had it ready for what, a year and a half, 2 years. And I think we just need to do something and get it done. We just, you know, Andrew and I have been talking about it, and we've been conferring with other people about.
but you have a plan for the layout, so you know.
We are
how
going to
you-
have, we do have an idea of what we want, and we've talked to different organizations who were willing to come and give us an estimate of things and give us ideas, but the cost was more than what I felt comfortable with as the manager, because I think that we can do, we have a plan. We know what we want. We know we want to keep it within the historical tone of the building. We want, you know, we've looked at the room, the design, we've had different people give us different ideas.
But the layout is gonna fit whoever your tenant is gonna be.
Exactly.
So I mean, obviously,
Exactly.
the other option would be to finish it to some point
Yep.
and have the tenant finish it as part of their
Right,
lease.
I think that what we're leaning to right now, the talks that Andrew and I have had, and we're gonna talk more about it, is to at least get the insulation, the sheet rock, the wiring,
Oh,
the
yeah.
outlets, have that all in there, the floor, the ceiling. So we could have someone come in and look at that room and say, you know what, this would be a great art studio, this would be great, I want this many square feet for an office. I have one tenant here now who has basically a closet for his office. He is very interested, and his company is very interested with renting a larger space in there, and so that's one option. And then, you know, we want to market it, and I think that will help us a lot.
Sue, would that room need a second form of egress?
What will happen is that in the discussions that we've had, it has the back egress. And so the plan that I was looking at, and that's with Amos Bell and Andrew, is that we'd have an entry in the hall, one door entry, and then if you made it into 2 suites, you'd each have a door in a hallway. So you'd have this egress still, because you could still keep that door there as an emergency exit. You'd have the back one, and then you'd have the front. So you'd actually have 3 for that whole room.
So like you're saying, fit up ready.
Well, okay, to a certain point. Okay, so,
The estimated impact for this continued improvement warrant article is 0.
okay, so, are we ready to take some votes? So first would be Article 9, Opera House operating budget. Of the tax impact of 9.6 cents. All those in favor of number 9, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. So that passes 4-0. Then we drop down to 19.
9.
Opera House complete work on riggings. $15,000 in offsetting funds from outside funds, and $15,000 from taxpayer funds.
$15,000 from taxpayers' funds and $15,000 from fund balance, because the prior years,
At 30,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's the next one down, 30. I'm talking just the 15 and 15.
Well, 15 and 15 is also the same situation.
Same situation, okay. Okay, so number 19, Opera House complete work on riggings, 2.3 cents on the tax rate. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes 4-0. And then number 20, as most recently explained, most of it had to do with the room right behind us. All those in favor of supporting Article 20, Opera House continued improvements, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It's approved 4-0.
We have 2 other Opera House ones that have to do with leases. One is number 37, Historical Society lease. There's no tax impact. The other one, 36, at this point, we are needing some more information on. And at this point, I would say the only one that you might want to make a decision on is the Historical Society lease.
Which basically is approving their occupation of the lowest level, and I think by all accounts, they're doing a very good job, and that is something. Historical Society is something I'm not sure it's required by law, but obviously most every town today has one, and it adds a lot to the local.
It's a big attraction in this building.
And the increase, Dick Alvarini, the curator, has expressed to me with our increased traffic here in the past 2 years, that they've doubled, sometimes tripled the amount of visitors that they have. We advertise on our Facebook for them. Our social media, he does the same for us on his radio program. So we work together in promoting the Opera House and the museum.
So is this something that is done every year?
The lease,
No.
It's how often?
It's expired. The one that was in place is expiring or expired?
That's expired.
That was added. So this would...
5 years or
A
something.
5-year plan?
This is a 10-year lease.
yeah.
10-year lease?
And the voters would have to approve.
Yeah, so if we did a year-to-year, this gives them more protection. for
So has anything changed in that lease? Are they still responsible for a portion of the electric and heat?
One thing we're looking at changing is how instead of having them responsible for a portion of the heating, because it takes time to bill that out.
Yeah.
And the bill's been running about $100 to $120 a month. Very little for their section. Give them a flat amount per year. And it would probably run about 120, 125, and there may be a little build up in their lease where that increase might have a 1 or 2% increase per year just to cover any inflation that might happen with that.
So the lease is really just covering real costs, it's not a per square foot deal or anything like that.
They have the whole bottom floor, the basement floor. They did have a water problem there,
Has
but
that
it's,
been resolved?
it's
The
been,
sandbag.
the sandbags are gone.
Yep.
Doug,
The sealant's working?
yeah,
Doug and his crew did a great job.
yes.
And, as well.
How did you address that, Doug?
We did a sealant between the sidewalk and the building foundation.
Really?
Yeah.
And it was obvious, when we paved that, and I think it was still that way, there was an incline in the pavement up to the building, which kind of surprised me that the water.
Yeah. Well, it kind of settles, there is a drainage there.
There's
But-
a face in there.
Yeah, and so it did settle, and it ran, it looked like a water feature all on his foundation in his museum. And
Oh, yeah, the inside, right, but
on
from the outside, I
But
found
the
it a bit.
sealant has fixed that. He hasn't had any problems. We've had big rainfalls and we checked it. It was a simple fix.
Okay, so if we're ready for a vote, number 37, Opera House Historical Society lease. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 4-0.
You want to do the,
Sue?
you want to, guess we've never already gone over that.
No, so we have more. Andrew, all right.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got small kids too.
Oh, yeah.
Heather, I thought you were just here to
I
be.
just texted my husband, told him to feed him cereal.
Heather, what's up?
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Thank
You were here to speak to?
She's gonna talk technology.
I just wanted to give you a heads up that there's a anomaly going on where Microsoft has monopolized the entire IT world with
Oh, they never do that.
so basically, just to let everyone know, the infrastructure for the town of Littleton, their servers are licensed by Microsoft. It's a combination of different server licensing for different functions. And as of January 14th, 2020, all of the licensing is end of support for Microsoft for what they have. So they have, they're in the same boat with pretty much like 95% of our clientele right now, where they're all on a platform called Windows Server 2008, which is end of life as of January 14, 2020. What does that mean? They have to upgrade the licensing on their servers. What does that mean? It's basically like rebuilding your server platform just to get the license upgrades. So I talked to Andrew last month or two, but we have finally had final numbers that our engineers put together. So I wanted to let you know that I think we talked today, and some of it's funded.
Yeah, so the board met and decided to use some of the fund balance from, the surplus funds that came from the state to cover the $27,000 that were required for the server upgrade, server software upgrade. But we found out today there's a little bit more.
Yeah. So the last one, we've been going back and forth about what would be best for the town to do about their email server, because that is also, the licensing is end of support. We went back and forth about what would be best for them to do, whether or not to move their email platform to the cloud, which is what a lot of companies are doing these days, if it makes business sense. But because the municipality has the complications also with public safety agency and the fire department, and them having their own regulations in terms of being compliant with CJIS and now with HIPAA, it is more simplified, less complicated, and less expensive to keep them on a locally hosted Exchange email server. So that's what we proposed for that upgrade. So that's an additional $17,000 worth of upgrades. The other thing that I put on here, which I thought was important to keep in your budget, even though we talked about some things that as an IT provider we recommended but weren't necessary for this coming year. In the next couple of years, some of the networking should be upgraded, but it doesn't have to be done this year. The police department has currently one internet connection, and they put in their budget to have a backup internet connection for 2020. Why? Because any good business these days has redundant internet. But for the police department, it's even that more important because they're on an internet-based phone system. So if their one internet provider they have now goes down, they not only don't have any systems or access to the state criminal justice records, but they don't have phone. So the firewall that I put in here is for the police department, and what that appliance does, it provides auto failover, which means if their primary internet connection goes down, the firewall senses that there's no connection coming in and flips them over to their backup provider. So there's no downtime, there's no, we've got to call SNS and do we have someone to go over there and switch them all over.
But if you have a telephone pole failure, you lose everything anyway.
No, because they have wireless internet as one of their options. So they're getting their internet service from Slate Ledge Tower. So that's great because if a line does go down, that is not gonna happen.
Okay. And that feature though doesn't work as well, if you would, as a fiber optic connection?
Correct.
Yeah. And it works better in one direction than the other, right?
Yes, right, there's single and duplex mode.
Right.
It's not as strong of a connection.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important for them.
But it works.
But it works, and it will work if a pole gets hit.
Oh, yes, but that's not, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
If the redundancy's on the same pole, it
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
That's right.
Yep. So, I have copies of what we talked about
So
today.
what are we totaling on that?
The total with the firewall is 48,000 minus the 27,000 that they are going to be able to pay for in the state
Municipal aid funds.
Thank you, municipal aid funds. So,
Which is
27.
nothing which is in the budget.
You're basically an additional 21,000.
$21,000.
Yeah.
This
And-
is new today, so we have to figure out whether we're going to do a separate warrant article or try to incorporate it into the budget.
Yeah. And what does it mean if you don't upgrade your server licensing? It's risk. There's security updates. So what Microsoft will say, if you don't upgrade it, then we're not going to give your servers all the security updates. What does that mean? It means you're assuming more risk every day that you don't have the licensing. Malware, viruses, all that good stuff.
Does that have anything to do with ransom,
Absolutely.
holding us hostage?
Yes.
The town has experienced that?
Back on the 20 system that we have, we have to go through the town.
So if you have a good backup, that's one of the things. If someone encrypts all of your stuff and says, pay us Bitcoin money, if you don't have a good backup, you're forced to pay the ransom, otherwise you'll get your files back. But with a good backup, you're able to roll back to before they invaded and encrypted everything, and you can be like,
You have to recreate since that time, but still, it's a day or 2 days worth.
maybe, yeah, it's a day.
So we're sitting in a good spot.
You're better than some people. You can read stories out there of plenty of municipalities that don't have backups.
Was it New Orleans? Just recently on the news.
Rhode Island,
Yeah.
New Orleans, there's been a lot. Town of St. Johnsbury had a ransomware a year or two ago, but they also had good backups. They were able to roll it back. So, but we did have a publicly traded company that had good backups this year that got ransomware that went, not only encrypted their virus, but encrypted their backup server. So it's a game we constantly are trying to stay ahead of. And it's like an expense for everyone that just keeps going up. It's crazy, but they're getting smarter, and there's more and more layers of security that are being required by the federal government, state, local agencies. I didn't know if you knew recently that now they're going to start to require multi-factor authentication for public safety agencies, which means you have to have 2 ways of verifying your you know, proving it's you when you log in. So,
Eyeball and your thumb.
yeah, it's crazy. So,
Who was your first cat that died? Some of those.
The black one.
And I can't remember. Yeah. All right, then.
Would you introduce yourself to me?
Oh, you saw.
Sorry.
Heather was a
I was
valued
a
member.
committee
She was a
member.
valued member. Sorry.
Right there.
I value you because I took notes.
So
Not
sorry
always
about
notes, but I was
that.
the secretary.
That's right.
Anyway, but I am the account manager for the town of Littleton for Secure Network Services, which is their contracted IT provider that does all of their support for all the town
And
departments.
Shane, my
So-
apologies to you too. And Dan, if you,
I remember.
you remember?
So I know it's late in the game. We, as a IT provider, have been very inundated with trying to address all these needs with everyone. So I apologize, didn't get on Andrew's desk sooner with a final number, but
Pass out.
yeah, you can have a copy of these if you want. I don't know how many. The committee can have them, but sorry. Andrew and Karen probably have their own copies, but.
Excuse me, but the update is just for Windows 10, right?
No, so
Because
there's,
Windows 7, January 14, Microsoft is gonna, just that's gonna give you no more
correct.
update.
So that's a whole nother part that I haven't talked about. So that's for your desktops and your laptops. At the same time, this is why we're so busy, because not only have they told everyone that their license for server environments is expiring, but all the Windows 7 licensing for personal desktops, computers is also end of support as of January 14, 2020. So if you don't have a Windows 10 operating system, you also can no longer get security updates. However, they released December 2nd of you could pay $50 to pay 1 year of extended support. So you don't have to go through. It's totally a ransom.
Yeah, it's like Microsoft.
So they do have.
So if you can't, it's expensive to upgrade a local machine too, because you're basically rebuilding a computer. So instead of having to do that, you do have the option of just paying $50 to keep everything the same, pay Microsoft for extended support, which is an option we wish that they would put forward for server environments, but they won't.
And that's what we're going to do for the next year, so we have time to plan for 2021. Just do it.
For the desktops and stuff.
Have a thing.
Good times.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't you want to come back?
Maybe next year when I have more time, I go to a lot of these.
We heard that.
The door swings both ways, so.
So I actually think the police department have the fewest warrant articles.
All right.
I'm sorry, fire department and public works.
You can text me your vote.
And I can stay till 6:30. I don't have anyone I need to meet until 6:30. I don't know if anyone can stay beyond.
Okay, so which ones do we,
So, first, we should talk about the warrant articles that the police department have, and then we can catch up with the budget. I do know Jim had some questions in his group. He had remove additional officer not presented to budget committee from 50,000 to 0. And my question was, is this the warrant article? Because I don't believe there's anyone extra in the police department. In the police department.
I think it's number 17.
Yeah, I think.
Around 50,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I don't think there was any questions on the other list that he had that pertain to police.
So are we just 16 and 17 on the warrant articles? Is that what we have?
We have 16, 17, and 33. Which was one of his questions.
Have you had a chance to do any outreach on any of those capital reserve accounts to see if you got any pushbacks?
Nothing new, yeah, nothing new. Maybe not beyond what I said last time, so I haven't had a chance to go.
I'm just trying to head off any negativity.
So the first warrant article for police is 2 cruises on a 3-year lease. The first payment would be in 2021, the final payment in 2022. The amount of the lease would be $112,000. The estimated payment would be half of that plus interest for each one of them.
Were we initially talking 3 cruisers?
There's one in the budget. There's one cruiser in their budget, and there's 2 cruisers on the warrant article. If you had 3 cruisers in this warrant article and it got voted down, there would be no cruisers.
So and just so you know, it still will stabilize the budget over the next 3 years. The payments will be the same. It would be if we put them in the budget each individual year. We're just moving all 3 vehicles purchased the same year. You'll have payments each year.
And if this is successful, there will be no cruisers in the next 2 years.
That's correct. Right. Because all 3 cruisers will be purchased in 1 year. There's an economy in size and scale, so when you're building them up, when you're purchasing the equipment, it costs less because you don't have to do these individual purchases every other year.
Right. Plus you're
A lot of
gonna
police departments do this.
Plus you're going to utilize them in such a fashion, hopefully so that they will equally last.
That's correct. Yep.
And this was, well, Officer Tyler explained that.
That's correct.
Rather good detail several weeks ago for those of us who.
It's also an opportunity to save a little bit of money because the last time that we purchased the 2 together, which was 2 years ago, or a year ago, we purchased 2 together, we saved about $4,000 on the purchase of the 2. It's not a huge amount of money, but any time that we can save some monies, it's a benefit to the taxpayers as well.
I quite remember Officer Tyler's, he gave a pretty detailed explanation of it. It really should have no negative impact. It'd be just like buying, is good or better than buying 1 a year for the next 3 budgets.
My only concern is equipment sticker shock. I mean, well, not equipment, but vehicles and everything between all of the departments being placed on the ballot at one time. You have cruisers here, and then you have things with public works, and you have, that's my only concern is that it's just so much at one time.
I would agree with you. I think this is a byproduct of that DRA debacle that you were talking about. Also, that we had to put this on the warrant article. Because
the lease, anything with leases beyond 1 year have to be put on as warrant articles, and the voters have to approve it. It's not like it was 2 years ago where the town manager could approve a lease.
Well, I would equally say that if all 3 cruisers are put into the budget at one time, whether or not it's a warrant article or just directly into the budget, it still might have sticker shock.
Oh, definitely would.
So that's my
But if the 3 cruisers were in the budget, they'd be in the budget as.
Full cost.
Yeah, that'd be a huge spike in the budget.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put them in the, you couldn't be in the budget for a third.
Not without taxpayer approval on the lease, because the lease goes beyond 1 year.
Right. But I'm also saying, either way, in addition to the other equipment that...
I mean, people are, you gotta look at it, and it's all this equipment, and I'm not saying that it's not necessary, but just, people not being up to date on discussions and whatnot, they're gonna just go in there and see all the requests for capital equipment, and they're gonna just say, well, and I'm gonna just put my foot down. And then, what's the impact? I mean, I know we've got a backup for one in the budget, so that, if for some reason this article does not pass, you're not left completely stranded. But that's along those lines with the highway department as well. Where we've got all these bundled together. If in fact some of these get voted down, what's the backup plan for, addressing the needs going forward until we can,
Well, the backup plan would be, obviously we'd have to live with the 2 other cruisers we have for, well, at least one for another year. Or two for another
Yeah,
year.
it just puts more mileage and wear and tear on the vehicles. We have radios that need to be replaced, so the radio costs were embedded in the cost of this setup. So again, so we wouldn't see that spiking, which we've seen in the past, unfortunately. We've seen the budget go like this because let's make it a warrant, let's not, let's do this. So we're trying to stabilize it. We're hoping that you as a committee will stand behind this as well, even at the deliberative session, and speak to the sensibility of doing something like this and why it's important. And it's not uncommon, at least in the police realm, with fleets, to do this type of a proposal. Like I said, through the wrench in it, it's where DRA changed their own rules. So.
Well, could you, okay, so I have to get a global view, okay, on this. So, on the back, if all of the warrant articles passed, okay, do you mind? Kind of go from there and work backwards a little bit?
Yeah.
So if the default budget passed with all of the warrant articles that we have right now on here, we have currently a tax rate of $4.25 per thousand. With the default and the warrant articles, we're looking at a tax rate estimated to be $4.722 per thousand. That's a difference of 47.2 cents per thousand. If the town proposed budget and all the warrant articles passed, we're looking at a tax impact of $5.084. The difference between 2019 actual tax rate and estimated 2020 proposed tax rate is 0.834. So the difference between the default and the proposed is 0.36 cents per thousand. So instead, the tax rate right now is 2310 for all groups, county, state education, local education, and town is 2310. Looking at this for just the town, that would mean for the default, a tax rate of 2357, or for the proposed with all the warrant articles, 2393. And numbers do change. We know that the school is going up. I don't know how much.
School's not going up at this point. Just for those that haven't been there, we've only met with the school one night, and we still do not know if they're going to bring anything forward for a new school. So but the operating budget thus far, I think their expenses went up. I've got it here. Their expenses went up, but their revenues
Went up.
even more.
Yeah, although the revenue thing is the second year, the 2-year thing, so.
Yes, yeah.
And the unknown is still the union contracts.
The union contract.
But they, at least what they've shown us thus far is they've shown made an effort to basically level fund.
And they have a reduction of 6 staff members on that proposed at this point. I think they're going to request one, a behavioral specialist, so that'll be offset. But yeah, so
It's pretty encouraging.
that's encouraging on this. So I would say to have an 83-cent increase might be a little bit.
So how put that in the average tax, the average home in Littleton, the average property, how much increase on their actual tax bill would that equate to? Just, I know.
Plus $100 on my sewer bill.
That's right.
Come on.
But you won't be flushing, Diane, in January, February, March.
I'll save that one, yes. I'm about $150,000 home.
So, that's just all reports about it. So, about $125
Per
year. And again, this is based on assumptions, like for example, that the total valuation of the town remains the same.
Which
we know.
The reval.
Yeah, with the
some of these
reval.
Commercial property is gonna go up.
Right, and we have new development too that's happening, so that'll be into that.
The other caveat here is that we have 2 union contracts
Right.
on the town side that we haven't heard about yet.
So
we
one is
don't know.
included in this. There's one that we can't until we get a vote back from it's been approved by the select board, but we're waiting for you.
So in that 2393 is one union contract included. And which one is that?
The SEA, which is line 22. Will be a 3-year collective bargaining agreement. The first year,
For those of us who don't do well with acronyms, the SEA is the,
police department union.
probably should change it to SEAP. C.
Why? Is it-
No, it's
The
State
estimated
Employee
cost,
Association Police.
the first year is $23,614. It's a 0.037 cent increase per thousand. I do not have the details with me, but I can send them out to you.
But the second and third years are roughly,
The second year, I hate to estimate.
no, it wasn't a couple.
Can I estimate?
Yeah, estimate that one, yeah.
About 36,000.
Okay.
This one is,
Second year.
the reason why this one is 23, because it's 9 months.
It's 9 months.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So that was-
Plus, there's a little bit of savings that we can take the first year that we can't take the second year.
Even though the savings, is ongoing, it's,
Once you get it the first year, you can't take it second year.
Okay. And so, and the third year roughly,
About the same as the second year.
Okay.
And I'll have those numbers I can send out.
and obviously that's cumulative, so that's basically $100,000 increase in the third year. Here's your $2 million.
I'm just like thinking about that globally, like with the, the 83 cents, like that's getting us back on pace with, some major equipment. So
That's gonna last.
yeah, and that idea is that, we're not gonna come back and say, oh, we need that much more for next year. So this is a leveling, so we're gonna be trying to create flat, requests over the next 10 years as much as possible.
Desirable.
So the other police department warrant article is number 17.
Well, we done with the cruiser issue? Because they didn't vote on it.
No, they haven't voted on it
We
yet.
haven't voted on any of them yet, so, we go through the whole, all that are,
Okay, because you were voting.
no, but I mean, when there's multiple warrant articles from one
Okay.
department, we go through the
Sure.
presentation of all.
Police department, full-time police officer, 9 months. Estimated request is 66,000. Offsetting funds, 39,600. And the estimated amount from taxation is 26,400. The estimated tax impact is 0.041 per thousand, cents per thousand.
And where are the offsetting funds coming from?
I'm gonna let the police
Right.
chief talk about this.
From the Attorney General's office. It's a $60,000 a year annual grant that is sustained as long as we want to keep the officer assigned to what we're going to utilize the officer for. There is an additional $5,000 that can be utilized annually for overtime to assist with the overtime costs of that officer. But this is a boots on the ground approach specific to the drug epidemic. I know people have been saying opiates, but it's methamphetamine, it's crack, it's cocaine, it's all the above. So this opportunity I have taken advantage of because in years past that grant was around $30,000. So they've increased the grant.
So the grant will happen every year? Or just
Every year I apply. It's first time it's 2 years and then it's every 2 years subsequent to that. As long as we want to keep the officer specific to this task.
So, just going to repeat so I know that I understood correctly. So, if we approve it for this time, it would be good for 2 years. We would get the offsetting funds both years at 30-some
The
thousand?
grant is $60,000 a year,
Okay.
plus $5 a year each year for overtime. Which I don't know, I don't think you worked in the overtime because that's
No,
an
I didn't.
unknown.
That's an unknown.
It also does cover some uniform costs and some other things associated with the assignment. But just to be clear, this is directly to deal with our drug issue. Okay? Our community has a drug issue. We have a strategy, but this is more of a proactive approach, not just for Littleton, but for our region. And that's where we need to be working. You know, the fact of the matter is that we had 8 bodies this year, 8 deceased community members, 8 family members, 8 sisters, 8 brothers. These are people that live here, that lived here, and we want to prevent that. I don't want to do any more death notifications. So we have to do and use whatever resource we have possible to try to stop that. You know, it's an epidemic in the state. We're in the midst of a mental health crisis as well. Our state is probably 48th, 49th in dealing with mentally ill individuals.
And they go right together.
They absolutely do. Drug offenses, a lot of them are co-occurring with mental health conditions. So this is our approach to try to address that in a fiscally responsible manner.
And Karen, why is it 39,600 offsetting? How does that come from?
Because it's 9 months.
Okay, so why isn't it $45,000?
It was an estimate on what we might get. It might have a delay to it to get it all started, all the paperwork delay. Not everything the first year I'm just thinking that not everything may not be covered the first year.
But if it was, it'd be 45.
What's that?
What's the application do?
We've already started the process. We don't have to accept the funds if this doesn't pass, but I'm going to start it now.
So it sounds like.
But if it does pass, we have the funds.
It does pass, you have the funds.
Just,
Good question.
I'm sorry.
So, folks, we're a couple minutes away from the witching hour.
Yeah. All right.
So,
The only other budget that, other than the operating budget, we have the parking meter fund, which is a revenue neutral fund that pertains also to police enforcement.
yeah. One question that I would ask, and only if people feel comfortable with, if anybody's had a chance to look at the petition social service articles, 41 through 53. And this is only in the interest of, no pressure here, but if those are ones, and obviously to those who are new here, I mean, these articles have been on there for years. They perform the social service needs of our community very similarly to what the ladies from Pathways expressed. Sometimes in the past we have addressed these, Diane, as a lump sum.
Right, we have, yes. Because in order for, last year we had almost everyone appear before us and explain, so we have a fundamental understanding of why and what type of services and why they need the funds and how they utilize those funds and if they ask other communities. This year we kind of went around that because, as you can see, we cover a lot during these meetings. And the only way that they had to come before us this year is if there was an increase in the amount or if it was a new agency. And so that's why Pathways came tonight, because there was an increase in the amount that they were requesting. Other than that, all of these have been approved in prior years by the voters. They are the same amount that we're requesting the same amount that the voters approved in the previous years. And I think so Pathways is probably, and Bridge House is new. So those are the ones that we saw, so.
So I guess my question, and again, Ms. Karen's going to be departing us. My question is, would there be sentiment to vote on Articles 41 through 53 altogether?
Altogether, unless someone has something to pull out?
Well, I recall at the deliberative session last year, that's exactly what was done, and they were all approved.
That's right.
right?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't attend the deliberative session. I'm on the beach in Georgia.
Yeah, no, but it's something, we all question these at one point in time, but, over time, they've proven their value, their affordability, and they take care of, Paul has the issues in his department, well, any of these things only serve to lessen, as bad as those issues are.
No, absolutely. We deal with a lot of these individuals on a day-to-day basis.
All these together make Paul's job easier.
And also the welfare.
On the welfare department, and truthfully, the fire chief and maybe the highway department.
Dan has a question.
Question
Yes.
on the Boys and Girls Club. It says a $1,000 increase. Is that, this 11,000 include the 1,000, they were 10,000 previously?
Yes.
So did they not come before us
They
to
didn't come
explain?
before us. No.
Why is that?
May I speak to that if you have a question?
Oh, yeah.
No, yes.
But the Boys and Girls Club is increasing their membership all the time. And I did some calculations, and where we have a fantastic recreation department, and I'm all for what we do, they provide us 10 cents on the dollar. So for every dollar of services they provide Littleton kids, we pay 10 cents. So it's an excellent value for what Steve and the chief just said about what happens with the Boys and Girls Club. Because their attendance is just booming because of the results they have.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Karen, you have to go.
I do, but
Well,
it's
no.
not that you guys can't continue.
No, and I guess we forget, I mean, obviously looking at the schedule, is there any sentiment for trying to meet next Monday?
Do we have a...
I guess like 14.
Yeah.
What time?
We have a non-public prior, which has been decided. But it would most likely be 5 o'clock.
The select board meeting.
Well, that would be the, okay, so what else would?
But I don't, and, honestly, even though Karen has to go, I don't mind staying longer if we can get through more.
Monday you got town meeting, not forget. Next Monday.
Select board meeting.
Okay.
So do you have a meeting on the 30th?
Yeah.
A meeting on the 30th and a meeting on the 23rd?
Well, I mean, even, and there again, I'm just asking, I know it would create an issue with Jim and John speaking to his availability, but whether we met from 3 to 5?
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues is that before a select board meeting, there's usually quite a bit of final
Preparation.
things happening.
And do you have travel plans?
I'm going on voting on the police department right now.
Well, we can, Shane, I just kind of, I sidetracked this here just because I was trying to see what we're gonna get accomplished before Karen left. But if you'd like to move to the police, we can do that.
Okay, Karen. Thank you.
Okay, so on the police department, Shane, starting with 16, the police cruisers, so it'll be one cruiser, and we're not voting on the cruiser in the budget, I'm just stating there's a cruiser in the budget, but the warrant article is to purchase two cruisers on a 3-year lease. And basically, it's a 3-year lease with 2 payments in one payment in year 2, 1 payment in year 3.
One payment will be year 2021.
Right.
And the other one will be 2022.
That's what it is.
Roughly
But that's how we're,
about 58 to no more than 60,000.
that's how we're not doubling down on this year, because this year, in 2020, we'll just be paying for the cruiser that's in the budget.
Right.
Okay.
One quick question, how many police vehicles do we have in total that are primary vehicles?
We have 1, 2, 6.
Thank you.
So, any questions before we vote on Article 16?
It wouldn't affect my vote, but does this mean the police department gets to use these vehicles without paying for them for a year?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, just no tax finance can be found.
And we will try to do it with a non-appropriation clause, because they're leases, they have to. they have to have a non-appropriation clause. Meaning, if something's cut at some point, we could turn them back in to the finance company.
At no cost, yeah. We need them, so, yeah.
So this would not be the next time that we would consider police cruisers would be what year?
2020, we'd be talking about it in 2023 or 2024.
Just in general, what is the history in Littleton in terms of like the concern about purchasing vehicles for the police department, purchasing equipment for public works, and this shock that the voters will look at all of this equipment and stuff? What am I trying to do? Does history tell us that the majority of the voters will trust the select board, the budget committee, the various department heads to know what they're doing, or are they going to kick against the traces or whatever?
Yeah, my sense on that is that depending on what else is going on, if there haven't been any other red flags in the town, just give people generally, if there's been some other stuff that hasn't been looked on favorably or is looked at as being done in a trustworthy fashion, then sometimes not.
It's hard to tell. I'm really concerned about having so much brought forward at one time. And so it's, I'm in support of it, but then I'm also leery of it.
Yeah, and we're talking about, there's very little over the years that's been brought to this committee that you would say is frivolous. And if money were no object, most of the stuff is very sound, but you got to sell it. But I mean, obviously this year we're talking about upgrading our equipment and getting it on a more predictable replacement schedule. We're talking about starting capital reserve funds for future needs. We're talking about adding a police officer for some significant social challenges that we have. And we're also talking at the same time about not depleting our reserve accounts to too below a level. You add all those up together, that comes up to quite a chunk of change. And we're talking about all those things this year as being major outliers to just the budget.
And then I also look at it against asking for a new police officer, even though it's grant funded. It's just so much for people to comprehend. And I would go, okay, where do I want to put my energies on that? Totally understand what Officer Tyler is bringing forward. Totally understand that. I am very sorry. I am worried about it. So.
No, sometimes, I mean, even if everything makes perfect sense and it's something you do in your own life, obviously different pieces on the chess table, but stuff that you would do on your own life because it make economic sense to you. Sometimes, just voters will look at it and sometimes just get a little bleary-eyed. We can get bleary-eyed by it and then just say, I don't want to do this much.
My point too is that it's not all walks. I mean, because next year we would go through the same practice of putting a police cruiser, but it would be in the budget, and it wouldn't necessarily be on a warrant article. I mean, there's the advantage of buying all three at one time and outfitting them, and I totally understand that. But we also have one in the budget, and next year we could put one in the budget, so it's like a smooth transition, I think, on that.
Well, budgetarily,
there's nothing
it's
to
the
it.
same every year. We did go a couple of years during the recession where the budget was removed from the budget, and it proved to be catastrophic as far as our vehicle maintenance costs and repair costs went through the roof. Our cruisers weren't being replaced on the schedule, and we had the problem, which we don't have now, because we do have them in the budget back every year, and this is just taking that program and enhancing it and making it more efficient. Otherwise, we'd have an issue like they have in Public Works, where they kept kicking the can down the road, and now you have a ton of vehicles that need to be replaced all at once. we're just taking our current program and making it better, and the cost is the same. And I think it's all about this committee, as well as myself and other leadership within the community, selling what the right thing to do is. If they're confused, you say, look, the cost is the same. There's not a spike in our proposal specific to the police department.
The challenge with Public Works of all, I think, was a little bit, at least not that they weren't doing the due diligence, but, you know, we either as a budget committee member or a select board member, if you're looking to cut the budget down by something, I mean, $150,000 truck has a bigger impact than a $50,000 cruiser.
Absolutely, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying that they're in that predicament.
But then even if we support it, the same thing applies to the voter. When the voter goes and they're in their mind saying, I'm looking to save $150,000, well, there aren't 3 cruisers to cut, but there is 1 truck. And, you know, so sometimes, you know, I was race wise 2 years ago when the 10-wheeler dump truck didn't pass, which we're bringing back this year, right? So anyway, but yes, it's, you know, the guy says it's strategizing to it.
It's strategizing,
Yeah, and how much you're going to ask for.
I know what you're saying, you're making it more efficient, but I don't think it's lost because next year you would still get your second one and then you get your third one.
Yeah, right. And truly, another victim of budget cutting has been the road work. Because, you know, if you're looking to find $200,000 or $300,000, what easier place to find it than, you know, cutting a road budget in half.
We did that before.
Yes, we've done that more than once. So it's a challenge, and you've got to respect the voters. But you're trying to earn their trust. You're trying to, you know, have them feel that we're doing the best thing for them, and you know, but you know, you're trying to sell a school at the same time. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah.
That's I mean, if this Article 16 passes, the police department is going to have 8 cruisers.
No.
No?
No,
He said
we'll get rid of 3 vehicles.
Oh, you're going to say? Oh, I
Right,
thought
get
you-
rid of 3 vehicles.
I thought you were going to keep it. That's what
I have 3 new taxis in town.
The 3 vehicles that either have the highest maintenance issues or are old would get replaced by another 3 vehicles.
No.
So our numbers would remain the same, but we would get rid of some vehicles as well.
Yeah, but last
Like we
time,
do every year. If we buy a cruiser, we get rid of a cruiser.
yeah, but last time you said that you're not going to sell it because you're not going to get enough money. You would have tried to fix it.
I don't recall saying that. I said that we don't get much money for these vehicles when they're end of life. We get probably $1,500, $1,000 for them.
That's why I encourage them to buy Subarus, then they don't like to buy
Yeah, see, they've been saying that for 20 years.
That's right, and I've been driving Subarus for 20 years, that's right. That's the same one.
I don't know, those British cops all drive Subarus.
They walk. They walk.
Those shows I watch, little tiny cars.
Okay, so Shane, what would we like to vote on?
Number 16, is that the first
The
one?
number 16, number 17, and the last one.
33?
Yes.
So, we see one? Okay, well, let's start
I
in.
don't disagree with you. We probably should have staff in there, but I'm trying to save pennies on that one.
Yeah, but good points, but
Good points. And we
moving
should
target.
plan for it.
Okay, so let us go with 16, the police department, the 2 cruisers on a 3-year lease, basically no payment in 2020, and then 2 payments, one 20 and 21, and, well, actually, I think it would be 20 and 21 that we'll be discussing the
I
next.
think I gave you the wrong, so it would be 2021,
We'll be discussing it for purchase in 2022.
Right.
23.
You said 3 cruisers, right, Jay?
Yes.
3 cruisers. Okay, then it's wrong.
No. One of them's in the budget, 2 of them in an hour.
Oh, you mean the town budget?
Yeah.
One is in the budget. No, it's,
Skylar is not here, you know? Abuse of power, you know what's abuse of power? Okay.
Okay, so There's no further questions. All those in favor of supporting Article 16, Police Department, a lease, a 3-year lease for 2 cruisers, one payment being due in 2021 and one in 2022. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
So it's
That's supported.
3-1?
3-1.
No one pays attention to me.
But they're making sense. Just trust me.
I know
I
they're
sit and
making
listen
sense,
to
but I'm
everything.
trying to strategize with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, Article 17, Police Department, new full-time police officer, that the expectation is that that will be continued to be funded on an annual basis at roughly 60% of the cost of the officer.
60,000.
Right, which is roughly 60% or $100,000, which is different. You know, most of these we've had in the past, it was 60,000 the first year, 40,000 next year, 20,000 next year, and then eventually we paid for the whole thing. That's the way most of them have been. So the thing that's different about this is that hopefully there's an ongoing commitment to this officer that it would have a specific purpose.
That's correct. Those are federal grants that you're talking about.
Yeah, okay, by me.
Yeah,
But that's
Chief, is that like DEA? Who provides those funds to you?
The Attorney General's office.
And we're gonna correct that offsetting fund, that number, you were correct, this is too low, so we're gonna fix that.
Should it be 45?
Yeah.
Feel bad,
I wasn't questioning, I was just questioning, with Karen, I usually feel she's got a reason why. Okay. Okay, all those in favor of supporting Article 17, full-time police officer, you say aye?
Aye.
4 yes and no no's.
I think Jim had something.
Yeah. And Paul, if that ever fell apart as far as funding, obviously the position would go away, we would still be subject to unemployment, but not very likely that that officer would be unemployed, law.
Well, there are options, either the officer's laid off, we lay somebody off, we come back to the committee and say, do you want to fully fund within the town? Do you know, that's certainly a decision that would be brought back to you and the legislative body.
So actually, Jim
Jim
said,
Those sectors
he
gonna
told me
hire.
on the closers he would have voted no, but that's too late for that. So he has
Yeah, I guess when we've done it before, by audio vote, I guess I'm not sure about taking that.
Okay, so no, that's fine. I just didn't want to ignore his.
Did he clarify what he meant by the 50,000? It wasn't for specifically.
No, I mean, what you saw is all I know on that, but he sent us.
Okay, are we gonna leave the capital reserve ones to vote on later?
Yeah, we can do that later.
Okay, so now we would like to move to the parking meter fund then, which is number 10. Andrew, why don't you give us a short explanation of it again?
Did we do,
Oh, sorry.
Did we have to do 33? Did we do that already?
Well, no, I was just wondering about, I just asked Andrew on those capital reserves, maybe we should discuss all that together.
We'll do them all at once, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah, do
right.
it in the future.
Because I don't have any, I mean, this is,
Yeah, that's the beginning of establishing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so number 10, parking meeting fund, and the short rendition of that, Andrew, is that there are funds in that fund, right? Which we're looking to take out and use for
Which number are you on?
10.
Oh, number 10. So this is just a parking meter budget. So it's always offset 100% by the fees that are coming in.
The funds that are in
Yeah.
the system.
By the revenue that come in. So this, the only change in this really this year is, remember, it includes, I think, an additional $20,000, or the major change is $20,000 for us to start improving the parking lot. We've got the barn being except we don't do and starting to turn into the parking lot.
Okay, but there really is no tax impact on this, that $53,000 is in the system already?
The balance, there's not a balance, 53,000, but we will take in, we'll take in offsetting funds throughout the year that will add more.
Okay, so
Whatever's left over, then we put the
It goes into the fund balance.
That's right. So there's 53 in this, so there really is no, I mean, these funds aren't coming from fund balance or anything else.
Right.
They're actually.
And, you know, interesting, this used to be, we never voted on this. This is one of those DRA things where we can vote on it every year now. We can't change that.
Legislatively,
Okay, so is everybody comfortable with that? So that this is, basically, this is just parking meter fines that have been accumulated over and above the cost of running the service, if you would.
Fines,
fees, rental. So another thing we started doing recently is allowing the meters to be bagged as advertising.
Yeah.
So right now Harvard Pilgrim pays us $1,000 a day to bag the meters. So we have a number of dates open and we offer them to little regional Blue Cross Blue Shield or any other local vendor that want to do it. And we have two rates, one rate for Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is $1,000 a day, and a rate Sunday through Thursday is $1,000 for that whole.
Okay. So all those in favor of supporting Article 10 parking meter fund, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Police Department, if you flip the page to 34, Police Department expendable trust fund unexpended salary line for PD. Dave, you want to explain that one?
Essentially, we have to do this annually, but what we're asking is that if there are unexpended funds within the salary line, that they go in this particular fund to assist with the training, hiring, and equipping part-time police officers. So during the year, we could have somebody show up and say, hey, I want to work part-time for you. There's a cost associated with that. I have to go somewhere to do that. So we thought this was a creative way to set money aside, so if that does happen, we have monies to be able to expend to hire a part-time officer. Part-time officers are an asset because a lot of them are retired or have a number of years of experience. We can bring them on board without having to send them to the police academy and use them to cover a shift, to do details, to do traffic control or whatever. But we do have to train them, and we have to put them in a field training program. They do need to be equipped. And rather than increase our budget and have a huge part-time line that may or may not be expended, we started asking for these extra funds to be put in this account for that.
So it's capped at 1,000?
No, I don't believe it's capped at 1,000. That's where it starts at.
So it starts there, and so the other money comes in from unexpended funds from?
Just from the permanent positions line. It's a specifics from personnel line.
I think I would have to have more history on that. How much is that amount of money?
Last year, the first year we did it.
Right.
And
it wasn't much money.
Yeah, there wasn't much. It was like under.
We're just trying to build up the fund to be able to, you know, I had somebody who was fully certified come to me. We don't have very many part-timers, and say, hey, I want to work for you. And I was like, I don't have any money. I don't have any money to train you. I don't have any money to pay you. I don't have any money to equip you. There's nothing there. Because you gotta cover the holidays, you gotta cover everything.
Yeah, I understand that. I just, the amount of money that can go in here, that's where I'm questioning.
Okay, I think you should table it, but Karen can answer that question, but
Yeah.
it can only come from unexpended funds, and I believe it's from the permanent positions line, or anything associated with permanent positions.
And the unexpended funds, we did that last year.
You
So
did,
don't-
yeah.
So that was the first year that we did it.
That's correct.
And we don't have a history of what that is.
Right.
No.
So. if
You'd like to at least
table
know
that-
what
Yeah.
has happened this
You know,
year.
because like if let's just say you have a salary positions and some in a permanent line and some in lease department, and you've got $20,000 left over from that line, because you didn't have time to hire someone, right? I don't want $20,000 into this fund necessarily. So that's the reason why I'm asking. I'm always the.
But maybe it should be have it up to a limit or something, so
Yeah, I just think there should be some, that's probably not ever gonna happen, but you know, it could happen.
oh yeah, it could.
I would say we need that 20,000 because of the opportunities that we've missed over the past few years of having individuals come mid-year and say, hey, I can work, I can cover these shifts. I live in Littleton, I'm certified, and Sorry,
Yeah,
can't
but
help
see,
you.
Okay, so the devil's advocate on that would be, okay, that would normally go, like, if it was 20,000, okay, it would go to the unexpended fund balance, which goes then to offset.
Absolutely.
So that's, and the people really would not have any control over that money or necessarily how it's used.
I would
So
like to
that's-
see, I can see a
that's all.
cap on it, I don't have a problem with that, but I gotta have something. in it.
And did we or did we not put a cap on that?
I don't know.
Karen here for
So that's my,
Karen will have that answer.
I'm terrible.
Oh, no, that's good, you're good. There you're good.
Okay, folks.
You're making sense, perfect sense right there.
yeah.
But the only thing is these guys are actually honest. Like I've dealt with these police officers in the past and they're all honest. It's weird.
Well, I'm not saying that I'm not saying they're not honest, I'm just saying that I kind of play the devil's advocate for the tax.
No, you're doing good. Just don't get me wrong, you're making sense. Maybe there should be
You know
a
what,
cap
that's
on
a
it.
great question, so we're gonna be back here, you said the 30th?
Well, we haven't figured that out yet.
When you clarify that.
I have to call, I have a dog that's sick at home, so I have to call home to see how the dog is doing.
David McClure told a story Sunday about being stopped in Paraguay for doing a U-turn. And he was with his son-in-law or something who was fluent in Spanish, so he did all the talking, but the end of the conversation was, it's $150 here or $250 at the station. So anyway, he felt abused.
I got a quick question though, like for this fund, right? Say like she was saying, like one of the officers left, they took the 22,000, they put it in this fund.
Yeah.
They'd be short an officer, so they'd need an officer to come in to maybe work part-time to pick up the slack for that other officer.
That's right.
So they'd need the money there to cover that.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't have to go through all the rigmarole.
That's right, so if we-
Yeah.
even if we.
Makes sense.
Yeah, well, yeah, in a given year, that money would mean if you lose a full-time guy, the money that you had for the full-time guy should be able to pay to have a part-time guy. But we're talking about at the end of the year, having some carry forward money, more for the opportunity of hiring and training a guy. Paul, isn't that more than paying his salary?
Not only training, but to actually utilize them on the road. Yes,
Yeah.
you're correct.
And
So,
so I just looked at the warrant article, it's the $50,000.
That's what I thought.
And it's, takes not just full-time, but it's full-time or part-time,
certified.
yeah, well, I'm saying the
Line
money,
items.
the line comes from the part-time and full-time line items. So,
So let's say there were 40,000 already in the account, there's 20,000 excess in the budget this year, only 10,000 would go to that.
But I would
understand
also
your-
say 20,000, I would, 20,000 going into that account from 1 year would be extreme for me, okay? I can see 10,000 going in, and the next year another 10,000, I can see that. But if it's like 30,000, so if you're at, I don't know what you are at this moment, and you have 50,000, you could have 50,000 going in. That's all I'm saying.
So what you're saying, Diane, that there should be a cap on the fund, but also a cap per year in
Yes.
terms of how much could go there?
Yes.
So there's a cap on the fund,
yeah.
and you're looking for a cap per year.
Yeah.
Give us a number.
10. She's ever been.
10, I don't know, 10.
Really?
I think 10
Well,
is
that's-
fine.
yeah.
Well, more relevant to me is the issues that you're dealing with, like covering vacations, holidays, special events, traffic, and how do you deal with that?
A lot of it's overtime, special events, we can charge outside detail funds to pay for that, but it's the same pool of people. We're looking to expand, getting part-time. Part-timers are great, plus you know, benefit issues and everything with that, you don't have to pay that.
Thing is, I just got a text that there's 2 murders in Littleton tonight.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be short on the people that have to deal with people getting murdered if the murder is at your front door.
Police, so I think we've been generous.
Yeah.
We have been generous, okay? So I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying, I got 5 daughters, and if there's 2 murders in Littleton,
Yeah, so what?
A better proposal.
I can't.
Call the sheriffs. They take care.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're always here, right?
So like, if they.
The sheriff's are here, but they don't do anything. They deal with the court.
Go in and
Issue.
And the police, and the state police, they only deal with big big trucks and traffic.
Tell me what new policeman is gonna do for somebody that died overdose.
No, I'm not saying about somebody dying on an overdose.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah. But they're gonna put somebody, they're adding a new officer for that.
What good police is gonna do for somebody that died
Yeah,
overdose?
the deal is, before,
Nothing.
was this,
There's nothing. They're gonna do as good as that.
Am to the airport, I believe.
You don't have that.
Maybe.
Will you work on it?
We're just talking about the implications, and I think that one of the considerations was, you know, if we stick with a $10,000 cap on it, and
I see what you're
say there's an incident and some
Makes
things
sense.
are happening,
If he doesn't
and
get
we spend, maybe in a year, for some reason, we spend 30,000, and then, you know, or even 40, then the next year, that's not available, we only put 10 in.
Alright,
And
I
it's
see.
another tough year. But maybe the thought behind that is
Something
it
with
works, if we're seeing that kind of, maybe
cruise,
time, that's when you
right?
say, okay, our part-time line item in the budget
Two cruises,
is
right?
more permanent. Yeah.
Right, and I think there, there's like so many things that are
Yeah.
being considered here. One of them is controlling the budget and the unfunded, unexpended fund balance, and there's a lot on that. So it probably needs to be.
But on the face of it, a maximum of 10 per year, with an overall max of 50 in the fund, would not seem to be unusual and workable.
Steve, I really have to go.
Oh, yes, I think we will. So anyway, the question is, obviously, we got quite a bit of work done, but, so is there any option for next week or no option for next
It
week?
is the school budget.
Monday, 3 to 5 would not work.
The SAU, and it's at 4:30, and it's really important because we made a quorum, and last time we basically didn't have a quorum. So Shane, will you be able to come to the meeting tomorrow? It's at 4:30.
And then what's the situation on the following Monday?
It's just as important as we need quorum as well as,
I have a 2 o'clock
you know,
work session.
we need a quorum, so
Okay. If I have to be there, I can make it happen.
make it happen.
So, over here at 4:30, at the.
Or whatever you
At the
want.
SAU.
Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, Maple Street, yeah, it's on Maple Street, it's a white building. Okay. Thanks, I'm sorry.
On the, as far as scheduling another meeting,
So,
Diane,
yes,
so a week from Monday, the 30th, week from this coming Monday,
I hope I can, I might,
4:30 here, is that?
4:30 to 7:30?
Whatever.
Can you make that?
What day?
Yeah.
Are you having the 23rd?
Can you make the 30th?
Monday?
Monday the 30th, not next month, following Monday, the 30th.
Oh, you're out.
you're out, you're
I'm
on.
gonna be partying that day, that's New Year's Eve, right?
No, New Year's Eve is the day after.
No, the 31st is New Year's.
So this year, there's 31 days in December this year.
Lord willing, I'll be
I'm
there.
really sorry.
If you give me a date, Lord willing, I'll be
We still
there.
have more.
Is that good? 4:30 on the
We took
30th.
it to the vet today, and I didn't know if we were gonna come
Mr.
back.
Schultz,
I
is that right?
What would you rather do?
The 30th at 4:30 here, is that doable?
Oh.
Thank you.